International students at Hogwarts. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1. This cat seems to have heatstroke. 1991, summer, Scotland, Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Headmaster's Office. Although it is summer, the Scottish Highlands are not very hot, and the fireplace is still lit in the house. Near the center of the room, sat an old man with silver hair and beard, the president of the International Federation of Wizards, the chief wizard of the Wizengamot, the holder of the Order of Merlin First Class, the founder of the Order of the Phoenix, and a recognized contemporary figure in the wizarding world. The greatest wizard, the only son in the hearts of all the teachers and students of Hogwarts, Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. In front of Dumbledore's desk stood a tall, fair-haired witch in emerald green robes. Her hair was pulled into a tight bun, her lips were tightly pursed, and her face looked impatient. This witch is Minerva McGonagall, the professor of transfiguration at Hogwarts, the current dean of Gryffindor College and the vice principal of Hogwarts, and is considered by the public to be Dumbledore's successor. The Dursleys are playing tricks. I hope they can do their best. I still have hundreds of students' letters to write, so I don't have time to bother with them. Dumbledore smiled gently, and picked up a plate. Judging from the magical feedback attached to the letter, all the letters to Harry were intercepted by the Dursleys, but it doesn't matter, as long as we continue to send them, that family will. Oh, Merlin. Every letter must be signed by me. Professor McGonagall was as angry as a cat whose tail was stepped on. It's more work for those who can. Let me have some honey lemon candy first? I just bought it yesterday. If it's really not possible, I will send Hagrid to act as a postman. Dumbledore tried hard to squeeze out a smiling face. McGonagall frowned, and took the plate full of candies. Well, you have your own arrangements, and then she waved her wand, and all the candies on the table disappeared. The elderly should eat less sugar. Dumbledore's smile completely froze on his face. This. Greek letter sigma, Cyrillic letter dec. Dumbledore's eyes flickered under the half-moon-shaped lenses, and his expression became a little more serious. He picked up a letter that had just been sealed from the table, and said slowly, "Give me all the letters for the start of school. Here there is a more important thing to trouble you to do. I originally wanted Severus to go, but after much deliberation, you are safer. What do you want to say?" Professor McGonagall was keenly aware of something. "I hope you will go to the Central Plains. This year we have a freshman from the Central Plains," Dumbledore said very seriously. "What?" Professor McGonagall showed a shocked expression. "Didn't Hogwarts only admit students from around England? I don't know why, but since Hogwarts Magic Pen has written such a name, we're going to admit him. I need you to run for me, Minerva. The portkey is ready." "Okay. I'll go there." Professor McGonagall nodded. "As the vice principal, it's also my job to pick up the students. But I'll let the house elves keep an eye on you. Don't have too many unrealistic idea. Yet, there's no problem, you go, be safe." Dumbledore adjusted his glasses, picked up a roll of parchment from the table, and began to study it seriously. After Professor McGonagall left, the parchment slowly deformed and turned into a delicate little bottle filled with chocolate. Dumbledore squeezed out a piece of chocolate from it, put it into his mouth and chewed it slowly, then looked around, got up quickly, and hid the bottle behind the portrait of Principal Phineas. "Minerva, you are still too young. Unit, family building, Quancheng Gangzhong, Liksha District, Quancheng, the capital of King's Hao. A boy is enjoying the shade under a big tree. The boy's name is Lu Ren. It was the summer vacation. Lu Ren's parents were at school giving makeup lessons to students who were going to be seniors, and Lu Ren, who was on summer vacation, was resting at home bored. Lu Ren had a handsome appearance, wearing a white old man's shirt, a pair of fat black cloth trousers, and a pair of flip-flops on his feet. He was lying on a bamboo chair with a cattail fan in his hand and another holding a copy of Golden History in his hand. He read it with relish. He hummed a ditty while reading a book. "You can't be considered the master of the city of BJ. You can steal half a day's leisure in the mountains. Don't disturb the people who walk around here. Please feel free." At this moment, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a tiger-skinned raccoon cat squatting in the corner. The cat's hair is clean and smooth, and looks shiny and smooth. There is a small circle of patterns around the eyes, which looks a bit like glasses. "This cat is very beautiful. Ren didn't take it seriously either. There are many wildcats in the family courtyard, which are fed by students every day. They are fatter than domestic cats. At this time, Professor McGonagall had an idea. Hot, really hot. How can this place be so hot? Goodness see you, Professor McGonagall has lived in Scotland all his life, where the weather is between 0 degrees Celsius and 20 degrees Celsius throughout the year, but now springs is in midsummer, and the temperature is as high as 38 degrees Celsius, not only hot, but also stuffy. Only people like Ren who have lived in Quancheng for 2 lifetimes can get used to the weather here. Professor McGonagall felt a little dizzy. She wanted to walk towards Ren, but as soon as she took a step, her vision went dark, and she fell to the ground with a thud. Ren? ? Does this cat seem to be suffering from heat stroke, etc.? What? ? Something happened that shattered Ren's 3 views. Professor McGonagall, who is unconscious, suddenly showed his original shape. Ren watched a cat gradually transform into a woman with his own eyes. Ren, this is the joke about a cat girl that netizens said true? Can the operation of change for me really be realized? As bizarre as it was, there was indeed a woman who had fainted before my eyes, and although she was a cat a few seconds ago, I couldn't stand by. Generally speaking, heatstroke is not a very serious problem, but it is very troublesome if you faint from heatstroke. If you can't rescue it in time, it may really endanger your life. Ren managed to carry Professor McGonagall into a cool room. Fortunately, Dumbledore sent the skinny Professor McGonagall. If it was Hagrid, then Ren could only call 120. Ren took out a new towel, filled it with cold water, applied it to Professor McGonagall's forehead, and then applied some cool oil on her temples. After finishing the emergency treatment, he pinched Professor McGonagall's Rinzhong acupoint vigorously. Soon, Professor McGonagall woke up. She felt much better, the surrounding heat seemed to dissipate, but there was a pungent smell coming from her temples, but this smell made her wake up a lot, and one thing to say, the temples felt cool, very comfortable. Are you better? Take it easy, I'll get you a fan. Professor McGonagall heard someone talking, but the problem was that she couldn't understand a word. She said weakly, what are you talking about? Ren, Greek letter sigma, degree Cyrillic letter de degree, I'm confused. Just by looking at her appearance, I can tell that she is a foreigner. I don't understand Chinese. The seedlings of the new book urgently need the care of readers and gentlemen. Please give me recommendation tickets, the more the better. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Hogwarts can't go on like this. Professor McGonagall? ? Careless, the freshman who went to pick up in the past can speak English. Now what should the child do if he can't speak English? Dumbledore, you cheated on me. Fortunately, Ren's English skills were good in his previous life, but the problem is that he went to school in France later, so his English became difficult to describe. Are you okay? A sentence in English reached Professor McGonagall. If you listen to Zinal, your ears will be bright. Professor McGonagall was overjoyed this kid can speak English. So the two successfully communicated. Although he had a very strong French accent and often required physical movements, Ren managed to figure out the cause and effect of the incident. The lady in front of me is really Hogwarts Vice Headmaster, Minerva McGonagall. Hogwarts has come to admit me. He already vaguely had the answer in his heart before, but now he got the confirmation letter, which made him ecstatic. I, Ren, have a dream, which is to become a famous wizard. It's a pity that the owl from the previous life never came. Maybe it was eaten halfway reborn in this life. Ren originally planned to go to a prestigious university, find a decent job, buy dozens of houses, and live a happy life as a charterer. Unexpectedly, Professor McGonagall blocked the door while watching the novel and singing. Professor McGonagall, you are my angel. An angel came down to me. But going to Hogwarts, there are also some problems, such as playing a game of bravery with the old urchin, and destroying the noseless village bully with Hermione and her 2 men. The key issue is that going there to study abroad is very dangerous. Just like the campus city is the safest place, Hogwarts is also known as the safest place in the wizarding world because of Albus Dumbledore, the strongest wizard in history. This safest is simply a super debuff, like Invincible in the comics. It is a giant flag. Academy City exploded every 3 days, gangsters went to the streets every day to molest girls with electric discharges, and Hogwarts was also uneasy. In the first school year, a giant monster and a puppet with no nose were mixed in, which was considered safe for passers-by. What about the second year? Are you afraid of indiscriminate murderers? Not to mention that there are no dead people. The basilisk can instantly kill humans according to the skill description, and the only reason that no one is dead is because those people are lucky in Lu Ren's previous life, a person who always draws cards to guarantee the bottom line. How can he say that he is lucky? Let alone the third year, hundreds of Dementors are wandering around the school. This is outrageous. The Triwizard Tournament in the 4th school year was fatal, of course, in theory. It has nothing to do with me, just watch the fun. This year is relatively easy. In the 5th and 6th academic years, the political situation in the British magic world was in turmoil. To be honest, it was really not a good choice to study abroad, just like most people would not go to countries like Iran and Syria to study abroad. The 7th year is even more terrifying, directly starting the Civil War mode in the final decisive battle. Only 5 characters with names and surnames died: Fred, Lupin, Tonks, Snape and Colin. According to official data, there were as many as 50 other war dead, about 1/7 of the battle fatality rate. Going to Hogwarts is too precarious, too dangerous, but that was a magic school. Hogwarts is so dangerous, it cannot go on like this. I'd better have a direct showdown with Dumbledore. Lu Ren secretly made up his mind that as long as Dumbledore knew everything, the school would become very safe, so that he could go to school there happily. Disclose all kinds of key information to Dumbledore, and wait for the lie to win. Our school is called Hogwarts, and it's a school for wizards. I'm here this time. I am willing. Professor McGonagall fell silent after being interrupted from casting spells. That's right, he just witnessed my transformation, so it's normal for him to want to go to Hogwarts. But I hope to go to school first. This request is not excessive. Professor McGonagall agreed directly. There is another question. My English is not very good. What about communication? Lu Ren began to discuss some details after receiving an affirmative answer. Professor Dumbledore is a great magician. He can make you a magic item with a translation function. Although it must be troublesome, I will urge him. Professor McGonagall showed a bright smile. She decided to let Dumbledore work overtime to make this item when she went back. The two quickly reached a consensus. Lu Ren waited for his parents to come back, introduced Professor McGonagall's identity and background to them, and then prepared to leave for Hogwarts with her. It was almost 7 o'clock in the evening, and the heat dissipated a lot. Professor McGonagall can also move outside in thick wizard robes. Professor McGonagall produced a can from inside his robes. This is the portkey. Wizards use it for long-distance teleportation. She patiently explained to Lu Ren. When Lu Ren saw the portkey, his expression changed. Professor, do we have any other options? If the wizarding world conducts a questionnaire about the satisfaction of various travel methods, the door keys should be the last few. The feeling of a hook pulling hard behind the belly button should be no less than torture. Just looking at the description makes people feel chilled. No, I'm sorry. Professor McGonagall replied frankly, the distance between Central Plains and Hogwarts is too far. I can't transfer apparition by myself, let alone bring you. Apparition, there is a limit to the distance of the apparition, and as the apparition distance increases, it will become more and more difficult. And the apparition is not so pleasant. Okay. Lu Ren could only accept this terrible fact. Professor, may I ask why Hogwarts admitted me? Shouldn't it be a magic school in the Central Plains? I don't know, but there is no magic school here in the Central Plains. The wizards in the Central Plains have disappeared for a long time. There's even a saying that the wizards in the Central Plains have completely cut off their inheritance. But after you graduate in the future, you can return to the Central Plains to rebuild the Ministry of Magic. Oh, you seem to call this department Tai Shi Ling. Lu Ren thought it was a little fun. Could it be that he could become a boss at the level of the Minister of Magic as soon as he graduated? Perhaps somewhere on the Central Plains, there are still immortals who can't be seen in the world. Lu Ren feels that the people of the Central Plains may not be willing to be called wizards, and they prefer the word immortal. It's time. Professor McGonagall interrupted Lu Ren's thinking. She took the can door key and put it on Lu Ren's hand at the same time. Before Lu Ren could react, he felt a heart-piercing pain at his navel. He lifted his feet off the ground and flew up. The two disappeared in place. New book seedlings, please take good care of them. End of this chapter. Chapter 3 Hogwarts. The two soon arrived outside the gates of Hogwarts. At this time, there are still 2 months before the start of school. It took Lu Ren a few minutes to relieve the pain in his lower abdomen. He couldn't help but wonder, which way of travel is more painful, being hooked to the navel or being stuffed into a tube? After Lu Ren relieved the pain, he raised his head with a complicated expression. His eyes flicked across Black Lake, then the steep cliffs and boathouses, the first stop on campus for all first-year students. Up the cliff is the entrance hall and the auditorium. The auditorium is connected to a fat tower, which is the main tower of Hogwarts. Behind the main tower is the headmaster's office, where Dumbledore and his bird, Fawkes, live. This is the magical world, and this is the dream of children. After entering the campus, Lu Ren suddenly felt that the world seemed a little different. To use a famous saying, the air is extraordinarily sweet. It's not an exaggeration, but it's really comfortable, as if bathed in the warm sunshine of an autumn afternoon. Lu Ren felt that the pain left by the portkey just now was swept away. Why is that? Is magic at work? Lu Ren muttered in his heart. As a magic school with a long history, it's reasonable for Hogwarts to have more aura than the outside world, right? Lu Ren couldn't help closing his eyes. Professor McGonagall directly summoned her house elf, and then briefly explained the precautions before preparing to leave. Elves are more suitable than people in taking people to visit the castle. Suddenly, she felt a wave of magic power. Lu Ren had never felt so comfortable. He seemed to be bathed in the sunshine of early spring. When he closed his eyes, countless light spots appeared in front of his eyes, and these light spots were drilling into his body. With the injection of light spots, Lu Ren felt that his consciousness was leaving his body and entered a mysterious state. He seemed to be omnipotent, and his energy was so abundant. Stop. Lu Ren, stop. A hurried voice came from the sky, and countless light spots, like frightened bees, exploded with a bang, scrambling to get out of Lu Ren's body, directly causing a whirlwind. The spell stops immediately. Professor McGonagall put away the wand in his hand, suppressing and appeasing the magic power that was about to erupt. It's a terrifying pressure. This is the first time I've seen such a level of magic power burst. The so-called explosion of magic power refers to the tragedy that the underage wizards did not learn to control their own power due to lack of guidance. A 3-year-old child with a pistol in his hand is undoubtedly very dangerous. Underage wizards who don't know how to control their magic power are also extremely dangerous. For example, little Harry can make the glass disappear temporarily. This ability is very funny when used to resist his cousin Dolly, but this ability is actually very scary when you think about it. Where did the lost glass go? Was it teleported to another place? We do not know, but with a little association, he can make the glass disappear, so with more training, can it also make part of the human body disappear? It's a pity that this talent appeared once and never reappeared, and this phenomenon is probably caused by the instability when the superpower is just awakened, and it will disappear after the power stabilizes. After experiencing a burst of magic power, Lu Ren passed out because his body could not bear the load. He seemed to sink into darkness, falling. Suddenly he felt a crescent moon hanging above his head. He stared at the moon. Gradually, the moon turned into a pair of glasses. Lu Ren blinked, and a face gradually appeared in front of him, a face that impressed him deeply. Albus Dumbledore. Where am I? May I ask what happened? Lu Ren was a little puzzled. You are in the infirmary of Hogwarts. You have just experienced an explosion of magic power. My dear child, it is a common but very dangerous phenomenon. If an underage wizard does not have proper guidance, the magic power in his body is likely to get out of control. Dumbledore said kindly. Lu Ren was silent for a while. It seems that I need to study at Hogwarts for a while. He had thought too much before. When he received an invitation from Hogwarts, he had to go there. There was no other option, unless he was willing to become silent. A wise choice. Dumbledore smiled, and there was a look of happiness in the eyes behind the half-moon glasses. Lu Ren met his eyes, and what he saw was a pair of eyes like a deep lake. Lu Ren suddenly remembered that Dumbledore was supposed to be a mind-reading master, and the previous Traveler seniors avoided direct eye contact with old Dang Tao in the early stage. Some people will learn occlumency first, and some people will recall super complicated math problems. Lu Ren does not have these two conditions. He does not know occlumency, and he does not understand mathematics. But it doesn't matter, Lu Ren still has a way. According to Lu Ren's analysis, there is a limit to mind reading, and it must conform to a certain law, and Lu Ren guessed that this law is the difference in the priority of reading memory. Mind reading must give priority to reading the surface memory. It is unreasonable to go up and directly read the deepest memory. The onion has to be peeled layer by layer. How can you be able to go from the inside out with a single spell? If mind-reading skills were so good, Dumbledore would have been invincible long ago. So as long as Lao Deng Tao uses the mind-reading technique and recalls something, it can effectively interfere with the mind-reading technique, and even be immune to it. As for the content of the memory, hey, Lu Ren suddenly had some bad taste. Eva Elfie, Liu Yu, Jinxiang Julia, Asuna, Billy Harrington, hospitals, schools, company parties, locker rooms, scenes of previous works came to mind, while Dumbledore on the opposite side, his expression gradually stiffened. Gan, this old Bjerxi who actually read my memory. Lu Ren was a little angry. After all, his heart was being piqued. Old people don't talk about martial arts. Lu Ren trusted Dumbledore. In the world of Harry Potter, you can always trust Dumbledore, but trust does not mean that you are willing to allow him to peek into your heart unscrupulously. Have you seen enough? Lu Ren said to Dumbledore with a playful expression. Ahem. Dumbledore was a little embarrassed. I don't know what's going on these years. This trick is becoming more and more difficult to use. By the way, do you want some chocolate? Honeyduk's new product, lemon sandwich of... What a clumsy way to change the topic. Lu Ren sneered in his heart, but he still took Dumbledore's chocolate and tacitly allowed him to change the topic. The two chatted for a while. Seeing that the sun was already in the west, Dumbledore stood up. Come and try the dinner here, you will like it. But I have a small question before dinner. I hope the children you can give me an answer. Why is the time on the video in your mind 2020? Recommendation tickets plus favorites are my motivation. End of this chapter. Chapter 4 Showdown. The setting sun shone on Dumbledore's face through the window, forming a shadow, and the ward fell into dead silence. Lu Ren was a little nervous. Although he had planned a showdown, he was still a little nervous when facing Dumbledore. But he soon calmed down because you can always trust Dumbledore. Unlike the third generation of Hokage and Naruto, Albus Dumbledore is indeed a good person, and it can even be said to be a good person. He is not as controversial as Sarutobi Hiruzen, and readers of later generations have more controversy over Dumbledore around the term Holy Mother. Dumbledore can even give Voldemort a chance. It doesn't make sense for me to beat me to death because of my talent. Is it a sin to have the same talent as Grindelwald? With the emergence of this idea, Lu Ren no longer panicked. He knows that the most urgent thing is to explain clearly, so as not to make any more misunderstandings. Professor Dumbledore, I need to tell you something. Oh? I'm curious. Dumbledore sat back on the round stool he was sitting on before. I'm all ears. The world is full of wonders. Everyone has an innate talent. My talent is prediction, a limited prediction. If I don't interfere with the future, I can accurately predict the development of the magic world and the non-magic world in the next 7 years. The development of the world in 30 years. The future of this world is clearly preserved in my mind, but there is nothing I can do for years beyond these characteristics. Lu Ren confessed to Dumbledore that he was special. Dumbledore was a little surprised. What a magical ability. It reminds me of an old friend. It's different. I'm different from Grindelwald. He can predict his whole life, but I can only predict these few years. Lu Ren justified. After all, Dumbledore can't let Dumbledore expect too much of himself. If I predict what Honeyduk's new candy will be tomorrow, I'll be done. Dumbledore stood up. Forget about it. Go and try the Hogwarts dinner. The pumpkin juice here is delicious. Of course, out of personal preference, I recommend you to eat some mint hard candy before the meal. By the way, take this. It can help you translate English into Chinese, he said, and handed over a small bracelet. Lu Ren took the bracelet. Wait a minute, Professor, aren't you curious about the future? I am willing to tell you all the changes in the magical world in the next 7 years. Lu Ren was a little confused, which was a little different from what he expected. As long as he spoiled the development of the story to Dumbledore, what's the difference between this and the werewolves killing the 4 wolves in the blind spot on the first day? Lie down and win. Anyway, he can point out Voldemort's Horcruxes one by one now. Lu Ren, my dear boy, sometimes it's not good to rely too much on the future. Dumbledore winked at Lu Ren, and this is sure to be a very, very long story, and the food will be cold. Hurry up, let's go eat. Okay, the Emperor is really not in a hurry and the eunuchs are in a hurry. Let's talk about it later. Anyway, it won't delay my cooking. Lu Ren got off the bed helplessly, and followed Dumbledore out of the infirmary. I'm not active in cooking, and I have problems with my thinking along the way. Lu Ren was very happy in the 90s, things were still relatively scarce, and it was naturally worth celebrating to be able to eat and drink. Oh, is this a common saying in your place? Dumbledore asked with great interest when he heard this sentence. That's right, if you don't eat actively, then there is something wrong with this person's thinking. How can you not eat well? Lu Ren replied cheerfully. That's right, you need to eat, you need to eat. Dumbledore responded with a smile. By the way, we still have a sum of money here, which is specially used to help difficult students. I will give the money to you soon. Thank you, Professor, for your kindness, but the money is for orphans, right? Lu Ren's smile faded. I'm not an orphan, he said firmly. Lu Ren. Thank you for your kindness, but I'm not an orphan, and I can't receive the money. But if there is any chores on campus that can be entrusted to me, I am willing to work for Hogwarts in exchange for my tuition, hopefully enough money. Lu Ren's attitude was very firm. Dumbledore smiled. No problem, I believe Minerva and Argus will be very happy to know that they have new helpers. If you are in good health, you can go to Hagrid and Severus to do some odd jobs. Let me think about it. How about 2 galleons a day? You can temporarily live in Hogwarts. Very favorable conditions, 2 galleons a day, and only a few chores to do. You must know that although Rowling believes that a galleon is equal to about £5, but not to mention the value of the British pound in 91, this exchange window must be limited. Otherwise, if a wizard obtained £50 through some means, could Gringotts really exchange him for, galleons? If Gringotts had been so generous, they would have gone bankrupt. Sirius Head is only worth, galleons. So 1 galleon is equal to £5, and everyone just takes it for fun. You can also use this to tease the hosts, making a joke that their wages are not as high as those of British plumbers. So how much is a gold galleon worth? Harry's wand. 7 galleons. A wizard's life survival depends on the magic wand customized for you by Ollivander, a wand master who can be called the god of wands, who is obviously full of craftsman spirit. A wand produced by an old shop with a long history in the Empire only costs 7 galleons. On a more down-to-earth basis, Harry bought the following products on the train to Hogwarts: bibbies, blowing super bubble gum, chocolate frogs, pumpkin pie, cauldron cake, licorice wand, and a few more weird foods he had never seen before. Note that Harry kept everything, and bought some of each, for a total of 11 sickles of silver and 7 nuts of bronze. 1 equals 171 equals 290.66. The prices on the train are higher, so I can conclude that the purchasing power of a gold galleon is ridiculously high. At least it is worth more than a yuan datao in the Republic of China. From the point of view of the magic wand, 2,000 yuan is not too much for a gold galleon, and 200 yuan is not too much for a galleon based on the price of trains. So a daily salary of 2 galleons is definitely a conscience price, and the key is that I can stay and work in Hogwarts. This one alone can make Tom envious of sour water. Old Deng probably wanted to take the opportunity to give me some benefits, and the memory in my mind is useful to him, so I can get this privilege. Lu Ren's psychology is very good. He agreed to Dumbledore's offer without hesitation. Lu Ren decided, I will live in Hogwarts this holiday. Or all kinds of recommendation tickets and collections, please, this is really important to me. End of this chapter. Chapter 5 Magic Wand. After turning around a few quarters and climbing various strange stairs, Lu Ren was brought to a very ugly stone statue. The gargoyles, they can talk to people, and at the same time guard the entrance of a specific room. You must tell them the correct password to enter. Behind this one is my office. Dumbledore explained to Lu Ren. Ferrero. The gargoyle suddenly became active. It jumped aside, and the wall behind it split in two, revealing a spiral staircase. Question mark, what the hell is Ferrero? This is the name of a chocolate shop in the Muggle world. Their chocolates are quite good, no different from the chocolates in the wizarding world. I still have a little share in this shop. This chocolate shop was established in 1946. At that time, I just made a small fortune, and I had a little spare money, so I invested in a few candy stores. They didn't disappoint me. For a moment, Lu Ren didn't know where to start complaining. It seems that Dumbledore has far more contact with a non-magical world than he looks like, and there is no such description in the original book. Walking into the office, Lu Ren took a look at the room. It was a spacious circular room, filled with all kinds of wonderful little sounds, reminiscent of ASMR. On the table with slender legs, there are many strange and weird silverware, spinning, emitting small puffs of smoke. The walls are covered with portraits of old headmasters, male and female, all snoring softly in their respective photo frames. Lu Ren thought with evil humor, I have to find a chance to look behind the portrait of Principal Phineas. Maybe there will be hidden items like the Hogwarts title deed. There was also a huge table with claw-shaped legs on a shelf behind the table, There is a tattered and crumpled wizard hat. Anyone with a little common sense knows that it is a holy relic of Hogwarts, the scorching witch hat. Oh no, the sorting hat. Dumbledore walked behind the table and sat on a high stool. He waved his hand, and a round stool appeared in front of Lu Ren. Lu Ren, sit down. Then he snapped his fingers. 2 dinner plates, a jug and 2 goblets appeared on the table. Roast lamb chops with black pepper sauce. The main food is rice with a little curry. I hope you can get used to it. I originally wanted the elves to cook Chinese dishes, but unfortunately they can only cook a little Indian food. Dumbledore said at the same time. Then he conjured up 2 cups of pudding and a plate of chocolates as if by magic. Would you like to try some desserts? It's only thanks to you that I can try these desserts. Thank you very much. Lu Ren took a piece of chocolate from the plate and tasted it in his mouth. At this moment, Dumbledore took out another small leather bag and handed it to Lu Ren. The leather bag was heavy in the hand, and when it was shaken, it made a tinkling sound of metal colliding. Advance your salary for a week. You need to go to Diagon Alley to buy a wand and textbooks. Some trivial matters require you to have a little foundation in magic. Thank you. Lu Ren looked forward to what material his wand would be made of. Personally speaking, it is probably a combination of bamboo and panda fur. After all, bamboo and pandas go well with people from the Central Plains. By the way, Professor McGonagall will accompany you to Diagon Alley later. You need someone to guide you. Dumbledore said after Lu Ren had finished eating. Soon, the two arrived at Diagon Alley as described in various works of previous lives. They entered the core stronghold of the British wizards through the leaky cauldron. Without any accidents or conflicts, the two arrived at the destination of their trip, Ollivander's stick shop, in such an ordinary way. It is extremely difficult to form a monopoly in various industries in the wizarding world. On the way, Lu Ren took a look. In a small Diagon Alley, there were actually 3 shops selling clothes: Mrs. Madgen's robe store, a second-hand robe store, and a tailor-made clothing store. There is also a Fangire wizard clothing store in Hogsmeade, which is still a famous clothing store. It can be seen that the competition in the magic world in the British wizarding world is fierce. The magic world is also introverted, but they all have a big house to live in, a big oven to use, and cheap fried chicken to eat. This is happier than 80% of the people in the world. However, there are 2 industries in the wizarding world that are exceptions. One is Gringotts, and the other is the wand shop of the Ollivander family, which has been making wands since 380 BC. Gringotts is the only financial institution in the wizarding world, the only large chain bank. What is even more shocking is that this kind of institution, which is related to the lifeline of the national economy, is completely controlled by goblins. Incredible. Lu Ren felt that wizards really didn't have the slightest idea of finance from the perspective of Gringotts. People who don't know think that the Goblin Wars were won by the goblins. One day, I, Lu Ren, will definitely establish my own financial institution that belongs to wizards. Lu Ren secretly made up his mind, and he planned to go to Dumbledore's place to find out what happened in 2 days. As for wands, the Ollivanders are also amazing. What is the concept of 380 BC? At that time, China was still in the spring and autumn period and the Warring States period. The famous Wookiee reform started that year. But this store is really broken. Lu Ren looked at the small and dilapidated store in front of him, complaining in his heart. The peeled gold signboard on the shop door clearly reads, Ollivander, making wands since 380 BC. Without these words, Lu Ren would definitely not be able to find this wand shop. Ollivander must have a common language with those craftsmen in Japan. Lu Ren complained wildly in his heart, but his expression remained the same. I said some long-winded words. I hope you will not be impatient. I will write this book in detail, and I hope that someone can read this story with me. In the end, there are some small bugs in the original book. I will make adjustments for them finally. Please recommend tickets and collections. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Ollivander's wand shop was small, with nothing but a bench and a few thousand long, narrow boxes of wands stacked almost to the ceiling. Meg? Minerva McGonagall? Welcome. Didn't expect you to come. It's almost like yesterday when you came here to buy your wand. 9.5 inches, fur, dragon's heart nerves, right? A skinny old man who looked like a skeleton suddenly said. If he didn't speak, Lu Ren wouldn't notice him at all. The old man has a pair of big, light-colored eyes, which look like 2 shining moons in the dim shop. Eyes can speak. Through his eyes, Lu Ren felt that he was indeed a clean and pure person. That's right, Ollivander. Let's recall our wands later. Today's protagonist is not me, but him, Lu Ren. The freshmen of the next semester are from the Central Plains. Professor McGonagall slightly raised his hand, and will stand on his Lou Ren behind him pulled him forward. Oh, well, Ollivander stopped talking in disappointment, and looked at Lou Ren. It's amazing, very amazing. This is the first time in my life that I have customized a magic wand for a Central Plains person. This is simply fate. Ollivander said in amazement, I don't think I need to measure your body data. Everything has already been arranged in the dark. What do you want to say? Lou Ren was a little confused. I don't really understand. People in the Central Plains generally don't use magic wands. They prefer to use various magic tools, or writing brushes and swords. Ollivander stared into Lou Ren's eyes and said, magic wands are the amplifiers of wizards' magic power. There has never been a rule about magic wands. It must be in this form. History has chosen the shape of the wand, the two-handed staff, the fairy sword, the brush, the shaman pendant. The shape of the wand is strange, but now only the slender wooden stick is left in the European and American magic circles form. I may be the first or the last staff maker to equip the Central Plains people with staffs. Ollivander sighed, history and destiny. He turned around and took out two long, dusty boxes from the corner of the room with the dancing of the wand in Ollivander's hand. The dust was removed little by little, revealing the true colors of the box. These are two rosewood boxes with a length of about, centimeters. There is no decoration on them, only natural wood texture. More than 1,000 years ago, one of my ancestors traveled to the Central Plains. He made many friends there. When he returned to England, he used the materials given by those friends to make these two wands. Ollivander speaking unhurriedly, he slowly opened the two boxes at the same time. The box is lined with light yellow brocade, and two slender wands lie quietly in the box, maintaining the appearance of 1,000 years ago. There are two magic wands. One is light yellow with red. The pattern on the wand looks like a ghost face, also similar to raccoon spots. The material is fine, the color is yellow, and a faint fragrance is revealed after the box is opened. The other is light orange yellow, a little gray, with the gold threads looming in the wood grain. The texture is elegant and quiet, like landscape stripes in the only few rays of sunlight passing through the window. The golden light is shining like a brocade. I think they should be very compatible with you. Ollivander carefully took the two wands out of the box, and put them on a brocade veil. This stick is 9 inches from the core of a 1,000-year-old Huanghuli tree. My ancestor's friend traveled all over Kyongs how to find a 1,000-year-old Huanghuli tree. The core of the stick is the horn of the oriental mythical beast unicorn. This kind of mythical beast was extremely rare even thousands of years ago. It may be extinct now. Ollivander picked it up with frenzied eyes. Then he gently put it down and picked up another magic wand. The body of this wand is made of golden anmu, 9 1/2 inches, and 95 is the supreme number in the Central Plains, which can only be used by the royal family in the Central Plains. It is said that the material of this stick is taken from the pillar of the palace, and it is stained with the nobility of the dynasty. The core of the stick is the hair of a famous hermit. The perfect combination of escape from the world is simply art. The pinnacle of classical wand making, the only one better than him may be that magic wand. Then Ollivander stopped talking. Come on, try. He handed the second wand to Lou Ren. This wand is very tough, and people with noble backgrounds but not fame and fortune can handle it well. Lou Ren took the wand, and suddenly felt heat from his fingertips. He lifted the wand up to shoulder level, and swung it downward with a whoosh sound, passing through the dusty air. Sparks of light were cast on the four walls, and a small pillar rose from the ground. The column was engraved with intricate and mysterious patterns, and Mr. Ollivander exclaimed, "Oh, wonderful! Oh, really, wonderful! Oh, 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 so wonderful, so wonderful!" Then he quickly picked up the first one and said, "Try this one too, quick, quick." Lou Ren took the wand and felt a cool feeling in his hand. The core of this wand comes from an ice unicorn, so it will be a good blessing to cast ice magic. Ollivander added on the side. Before the words fell, a nice lotus flower bloomed in the air. "Oh, this root fits you very well. It's amazing, never heard of it, never seen it." Ollivander blushed excitedly. "This is destiny. This is destiny. These two wands fit so well, Mr. Lou Ren, you can take them both away." Ollivander said from the side. "But isn't a wizard only able to have one magic wand?" Lou Ren was a little confused. No, there is no such saying. It is the one that chooses the wizard, and they choose you. You are the common master of their two wands. Nothing can be violated. This is the choice of the wand. Ollivander explained patiently with. In the end, Lu Ren bought both ones together, just spent a week's salary advance. Looks like I have to go to Diagon Alley again before school starts. Lu Ren said to Professor McGonagall. No problem, young people should go shopping more. Professor McGonagall said with a smile, and her expression was not so serious. She secretly thought, it is very pleasant to be able to put down work and come out for a walk. The next time this child comes out, I may still find a chance to come out and let the wind go. Ask for recommended tickets and collections. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. How many wizards are there in the magic world? Lu Ren didn't know what Professor McGonagall was thinking. He was thinking about another question. So on the way back, Lu Ren took the opportunity to ask Professor McGonagall this question. Lu Ren was actually very curious. How many people are there in the magic world? Ms. Rowling once said that there are about 1.8 wizards in the British wizarding world, which is very interesting. This figure is roughly equal to 50 divided by 80%, which is the number of Hogwarts students divided by the British birth rate in the, s. If we assume that the number of new students per level at Hogwarts is the same as the birth rate of the British wizarding world 11 years ago, then it just fits Rowling's statement. Then why, as the world's #1 magic school, there are only about 50 new students each year? Does Hogwarts also engage in elite education like French engineering schools? The answer can only be that the population of the magic world is too small. This can be corroborated from the original book. In the first part, there is only one dormitory for Gryffindor first-year boys, and this dormitory has only 5 beds. Well, even if you travel to the magic world, you can't escape the fate of the 6 worlds. According to the description in Chapter 9 of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Slytherin's students are already there, and there are 20 flying broomsticks neatly placed on the ground. So it can be inferred that Gryffindor there are no more than 20 first-year students in the 2 houses of Slytherin, because Ms. Hooch, who teaches flying lessons, only prepared 20 broomsticks, and she also said everyone stands next to a broomstick, so there is no sharing of 2 or more people. In the second Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Harry and his Hufflepuff classmates took herbal medicine class. There are more than 20 pairs of earmuffs of different colors on the stool. Sprout the professor only prepared about 20 earmuffs, so there were no more than 30 Gryffindor and Hufflepuff students. This is still Hufflepuff, which is famous for its large population. Therefore, in the 4 colleges, the number of students at each level probably does not exceed 50. We conservatively estimate that there are 50 students in each grade, then the 7th grade is about 350 people. This is also more reasonable. After all, there are only a few professors in the school, and there are no such positions as teaching assistants. Instead, there are assistant professors or substitute teachers. The substitute teacher doesn't live in the castle, and is temporarily hired according to the principal's letter, which we don't consider. Every professor has to give students at least 1 class a week, and some classes even have 2 class hours a week. Here we make the most simplified treatment. Each professor has to teach 1 class hour a week to all students in grades 1 to 5, and at the same time give 1 class hour to students in grades 6 and 7. Disregarding special circumstances, both colleges have taught together until the 5th grade. Therefore, a professor has to teach a grade twice a week. Simply add up, and a professor has at least 12 class hours a week. So scary, you know. The classes at Hogwarts are not the small 10-minute classes in China, but the big classes that take a full 2 hours. There are at most 4 courses a day, so a professor will teach from morning to evening 3 days a week. This does not take into account the extra classes and the work of the professors preparing lessons and grading assignments. This is exploitation. With this kind of intensive teaching, there are at most 50 people in a class. If there are more than, people in a class, the professors can be exhausted to death. Don't forget, liberal arts is fine, but science subjects such as potion classes require professors to prepare experimental materials by themselves. So estimating 350 students in a school is a bit excessive. There are 11 well-known wizarding schools around the world, and Hogwarts is not a weak teacher in the wizarding world. The principal, Professor McGonagall, defeated Grindelwald by himself, so he can be said to be a faker in the wizarding world. Therefore, it is impossible for the scale of Hogwarts to be much smaller than that of other schools, so the number of students in other schools should also be around 300. Each school counts as 350 students, so the total number of students in the school is 3,850, which is less than 500, more than, students graduate each year. According to the old man who appeared in the book, the lifespan of the magic world and the non-magic world is actually similar. Only a few special cases can last a long time. This can be inferred from the characters in the book, such as Harry's grandparents, the grandparents of the Weasley family, Sirius' parents, all passed away. Therefore, most of the characters in the magic world live to around 80 years old. Everyone graduated at the age of 17 and died at the age of 80. There are a total of 63 classes of students, which is about 5,000 people. There are only 5,000 wizards who have undergone systematic training. Counting some lesser-known elementary schools, the number doubles to only 7. Of course, there are far fewer countries with magic schools than countries without magic schools, because the wizard population in most countries will choose to learn magic at home, so there is still potential for the magic world to be tapped. Based on the current information, it is basically impossible to infer the number of people who left the magic world. Because the data given by Rowling is too nonsense, there are currently only 8 known magic schools, namely Boxburtons in France, Durmstrang in Scandinavia, Hogwarts in England, Codis Torres in Russia, and the Institute of Magic, Uganda's Ouagadougou, Brazil's Castribush, America's Alvermorny. The 4 ancient civilizations don't have a magic academy. What a joke. So the best way is to ask Professor McGonagall. Professor McGonagall, how many wizards are there in the magic world? Luren opened his eyes wide and asked Professor McGonagall expectantly. This can be regarded as a long-cherished wish of his previous life. After all, it is very disappointing to see that there is no Chinese school in a famous magic school. What's wrong? Can't the Chinese become magicians? And in this world, at least Luren can try to let magic take root in the Central Plains. Your question is really difficult for me, Professor McGonagall frowned, thinking for a while. It's about 28. Before the Quidditch World Cup finals, there were, wizards participating, but these were basically European and American wizards. Wizards in Asia and Africa are not interested in Quidditch. The Ministry of Magic has an easy solution. According to research, the probability of human awakening magic talent is random and does not change due to nationality, except for historical reasons in the Central Plains, so the number of British magic circles is divided by the British population and the proportion of the total population of Central Plains people in the world. That is the number of wizards in the world. I checked a lot of information in this chapter. I'm really tired. Rowling has left too many bugs. In her world, China is as if it doesn't exist. End of this chapter. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8, Hogwarts Beaters. 28. I didn't expect it to be so small. Luren sighed. After all, 28 seems like a lot, but on average, there is only 1 in 3 people on the entire Earth. It's truly 1 in 10,000, and Luren also understands why the magic world is so afraid of communicating with the non-magic world. If one day the location of the Quidditch World Cup is revealed to the Muggle government, a few nuclear bombs can evaporate nearly 1/3 of the magic world's population. Although the Muggle repelling curse was cast on the venue, the nuclear bomb will not turn, and previous experience has shown that physical damage is also effective against wizards. Otherwise, how could Dumbledore's nose be crooked by a Burforth? So once the magic world is exposed to the eyes of the non-magic world, there is no way to fight back against the magic world. The only point of victory in the magic world is sneak attack, secretly controlling the high-level people in the non-magic world, or choose to cooperate with the Muggles for a win-win situation. The population of the wizarding world has always been sparse, and there are only more than 3,000 people in the British wizarding world. Professor McGonagall pursed his lips. Okay, kid, let's go back to Hogwarts. 3,000 people. Voldemort is a village tyrant. Luren complained wildly. In his heart, the first Dark Lord Grindelwald had no nose to blame Voldemort for not knowing how tall he was. Now that he got the wand and spent Dumbledore's advanced salary, he must work hard. However, the initial work was somewhat beyond Luren's expectations. He would work with a castle administrator Filch to clean up and maintain the Hogwarts castle. Argus Filch is a squib and an administrator at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. He has an eccentric personality, and his greatest hobby should be somewhere between petting cats and catching students who violate school rules. He often wanders the corridors of the school with Mrs. Norris, trying to catch students who violate the school rules while complaining about the pranks of the elf peeves. Overall, an unlikable faculty member. For the next whole week, Luren and Filch cleaned all kinds of dusty classrooms, dirty bathrooms, Some dirty floors and all kinds of large glass windows. One of the two is a squib, and the other is a fledgling young man. Neither of them can use magic, so their cleaning work is completely manual, purely manual, without any magic addition. Lu Ren often wakes up at 8 o'clock in the morning and works until 6 o'clock in the evening every night. When he returned to the Gryffindor Lounge, Lu Ren would take the time to preview the textbooks for the new semester. As for where the textbooks come from, do people who know the location of the room of requirement still need to pay for textbooks? On the new Monday, Lu Ren was brought to Dumbledore's office early in the morning by the house elf. "You did a good job this week," said Dumbledore, wearing a star nightgown, sitting relaxedly on an armchair in the office, picking up a finger biscuit from the plate in front of him, and sipping the biscuit with a cup of freshly brewed black tea. After eating, Mr. Filch admires you very much. He said that such hard-working young people are rare. You get what you pay for, and I'll take care of the work when I get the money. Lu Ren glanced at the biscuits on the table calmly. "Is there something you called me here today? If you want to eat, please feel free. I have enough biscuits here. The main reason I called you here today is because Severus needs a helper, so I recommended you," Dumbledore said with a smile. "Severus may have different opinions, but I believe you will get along very well." Lu Ren was a little speechless. He didn't even know how to spell a spell. It was good enough not to cause trouble for the professor, but now he had to help Snape. Was this to train Snape's ability to take care of children in advance? Lu Ren originally thought that he would play the role of cleaner as a cameo in the past 2 months, but he didn't expect that he would still have the opportunity to work with a project, and it can be said that it is almost the best place to go. After all, potions class has some similarities with a chemistry class in the previous life, and I can't be regarded as at zero foundation. During this week, Lu Ren also roughly read the 3 books Thousands of Miraculous Herbs and Fungi, Magic Potions, and Where Are Fantastic Beasts. It can also relieve boredom. Soon, Lu Ren arrived at the potions classroom, where Snape would prepare some not-so-precious potions when he was not in class. The potions classroom is a huge dungeon located in the dungeons of Hogwarts Castle. Lu Ren estimated that at least 20 students could be accommodated here. Lu Ren walked through the classroom and couldn't resist looking at the various glass jars filled with stuffed animals on the wall, while Professor Snape was already waiting quietly beside the podium. When Lu Ren walked into the classroom, Snape glanced at the hourglass on the lectern. The time was just right. This little devil didn't hesitate, and came directly from Dumbledore after receiving the task. He looked at Lu Ren again. He has a handsome face, and his black hair is a little long, but not greasy. At first glance, he looks like a person who washes his hair every day. He is well proportioned and has slender limbs. A white coat and a pair of jeans. Well dressed, clean, and looking like a neat guy, thought Snape. Remember to wear wizard robes after school starts. It's not yet school, so you can wear it for the time being. Before I start work, I have a few disciplines to emphasize, although I can't understand the point of Dumbledore sending you such a brat, but you can indeed make a small contribution to today's experiment, if you're smart enough. Snape said slowly. His voice was really slow and sounded a bit greasy. It was difficult to make a good first impression. Lu Ren listened quietly. He didn't want to make any surprising remarks to impress the professor in front of him. Mr. Lu Ren, please remember carefully. I will not repeat it a second time. Once you violate it, leave here immediately. I don't want to see you again. First of all, if you want to speak, you need to raise your hand first, and you can only ask questions after I agree. But you have to ask questions. Don't try to use your little brain to solve it alone. This is impossible. Second point, don't try to use the tricks you learned elsewhere to be lazy, and don't foolishly try any spells that can assist the formation of potions. The only spells you need are cleaning spells and healing spells. Potion science is an extremely precise and strict subject. A slight change will cause huge changes in the potion and interfere with the experimental results. The third point is also the most important point. Potions is the most rigorous and dangerous subject in Hogwarts. Please strictly follow the steps I explained, and don't use your naive little mind to omit or add or modify my steps. I will arrange the easiest work for you. After finishing speaking, Snape saw the young man in front of him raise his hand. He took a deep breath. What's the matter? Do you have any dissatisfaction or doubts about the discipline I just mentioned? Mr. Lu Ren. Lu Ren also took a deep breath. Yes, Professor, I don't know how to use cleansing spells and healing spells. Snape suddenly felt a little dark in front of his eyes, and a little stuffy in his chest. Recommended tickets, favorites, chapter said, please. End of this chapter. Chapter 9 Potions from Scratch. You can't even cleanse and heal. It's normal. It's normal. If you know these spells, there will be problems. Snape's face gradually turned livid, but the anger in his heart was restrained. I couldn't help venting out, Dumbledore took me as a nanny. What can this little kid do for me? Before Dumbledore just told him that he would send a boy named Luren to help him with some chores. Snape thought that this boy would have some basic knowledge, but Dumbledore actually dared to send a boy with no basic knowledge. Kids, come here. Professor, although I don't know how to use magic spells, I have passed all kinds of operations in my laboratory. Luren carefully explained from the side. Now Luren, like a freshman with a mismatched resume and practical ability, is searching for his own advantages and trying to convince the interviewer. Obviously, the interviewer in front of him is not satisfied with himself. However, Luren was still confident, because there was a high probability that the helpers Snape needed would not need to use magic. Snape himself is one of the top potions masters in the British magic world. Ordinary magic apprentices are of little use to him. It's like a junior high school student working as an experimental assistant for an academician. What can he do? The only place where he is needed should be those repetitive manual labor. Snape's expression eased a little. Over the years, he was used to the little wizards trembling in front of him like shaved quails, and he was also used to the whispering behind him, and all the students talking to him. With a respectful attitude, if he read correctly, this empty-headed little devil in front of him seems to want to be his assistant? Interesting remarks. Potions class is not about cooking, although I also doubt that you can cook. Where do you come from with the confidence to say that you have passed the test? But since you have come here, I would like to give you a chances. Have you seen 1,000 miraculous herbs and fungi? I've seen it, Professor. Not hopeless. So I ask you, what do I get if I add daffodil root powder to wormwood infusion? Water of life and death, Professor. Oh? If I asked you to find me a bezoar, where would you find it? In the goat's stomach. Coprolites are stones that are taken out of the goat's stomach and have a strong detoxifying effect. Yes, your knowledge can barely cope with the next experiment. Snape's face became more relaxed. The brat in front of him still had a certain talent. At least he previewed the basic knowledge of potions class, but there are too many giants in theory and dwarfs in practice. Whether this little guy can stay or not depends on his next practical performance. What you have to do today is to juice these sleepy beans. It's very simple. Try it. Snape took out a pot of sleepy beans from under the podium, which seemed to weigh several kilograms. If you're going to injure yourself by doing this, I suggest you get out of here. Cleaning the bathroom might be more appropriate for you. Okay, Professor, which container should the squeezed juice be put into? Luren was glad that he passed a question and answer session, while trying to get more information. Snape took out 3 huge round-bottom flasks. You can fill these 3 bottles today. At the same time, he observed Luren's expression. There is no better way to test than sleepy beans. Through this simple operation, you can easily judge the operation level and temperament of a little wizard. After all, sleepy beans are a dry bean. Who would have thought that there are actually many? What about the juice? There are 3 full bottles. Most young wizards will feel impatient, right? But he didn't see the look of impatience on the little boy's face. The attitude is okay, thought Snape. Luren knew it. After all, sleepy beans are so famous. Who doesn't know that these beans should be squeezed with the side of a silver knife? Without saying much, he picked up the short silver knife on the operating table and began to squeeze the juice. Sure enough, the beans immediately leaked a lot of juice, and Luren couldn't believe that there was so much water in that shriveled bean. He hastened to collect the juice into a flask. Snape raised his eyebrows. It looks like the kid in front of him hasn't read advanced potion making, but if a freshman who has not yet entered school has previewed the textbooks used in the 6th grade, it is too magical up. It is precisely because people have not read textbooks that they use squeezing to extract juice. This is human instinct and valuable spirituality. It's just a pity. I don't know if he has the courage to break the rules. Do you have the courage to go against the textbook? None of this is known, thought Snape in his mind, but he forgot that he just emphasized that the operation must be strictly follow the steps of the guide, and no innovation is allowed. It can only be said that human instinct is a double standard. Previously, Snape's request to Luren was only to complete the operation according to the steps, but now he hoped that he would have a more eye-catching operation. Soon, Luren filled the 3 flasks. Sleepy bean has more juice than he thought. Talent is acceptable. This was Snape's evaluation of Lou Ren in his heart, but he remained calm on the surface, and just said lightly, "Okay. Let's continue to prepare the potion." There is no doubt that Severus Snape is definitely a middle-aged and arrogant person. If he changes his sex after dyeing his hair, he will definitely fit the image of a defeated dog in anime dramas. There is a very good detail in the third movie. Facing the attack of the monster, Snape immediately protected the trio behind him. The strange mentality of not caring, coupled with the titles of Shen Feng Wu Ying and Half-Blood Prince when he was young, can be used as evidence. Lou Ren clearly noticed this, so he decided to brush up the favorability of the Persian religion first. As a time traveler, he can't hold back this big family. 100 milliliters of pure water, 13 drops of night vanilla juice, 7 pieces of golden mint leaves. Snape didn't know that his image had been exposed, and he began to prepare the potion. Lou Ren prepared the materials according to the instructions. 9 grams of dragon blood grass powder. Lava octopus blood, 10 milliliters. 50 star crystals. Time passed quickly, and Lou Ren quickly completed the task given by Snape. Before I knew it, it was already noon. Although the various equipment is slightly different from the laboratory in the previous life, Lou Ren still quickly adapted to all of them. With Snape's wand waving, there was a sizzle sound, and an illusory mist appeared instantly, making the classroom foggy. "The potion has been prepared, you can go. Your task for today is complete." Snape looked at Lou Ren, and then drove him out of the classroom. What a talented little guy. Snape sighed. The operation and attitude are excellent. This kid is okay. Hey, let's see if anyone can get my mem. The book is so deserted, everyone is talking. If you like it, don't forget to vote for it. End of this chapter. Chapter 10, The Nature of Spells. After coming out of the potions classroom, Lou Ren went to the auditorium to have a simple but delicious lunch, and then he went straight back to the lounge, not to rest, but to make up lessons for himself. There's no way, and he doesn't want to, but he can still handle it now. After a few days, he will need to use various spells, so what can he do if he doesn't know anything? Professor Snape's favorability must have plummeted, which is not good. Back in the dormitory, Lou Ren picked up a tattered copy of Standard Spells, Elementary from the small desk. Although the room of requirement has some old books in better condition, Lou Ren deliberately picked out a copy with a graffiti on it. Yes, Harry can get Snape's old textbooks and get a lot of cheats. There's no reason I can't. The result is really not good. This book is just a tattered old book, and the graffiti on it are also meaningless words. It seems that the old owner of the book has deserted in class. However, after Lou Ren flipped through the Standard Spells, Elementary, he was embarrassed to find that there were no cleansing spells and restoration spells in it. This is very embarrassing. Standard Spells, Elementary only teaches the 9 basic spells of softening spell, cutting spell, unlocking spell, levitating spell, locking spell, repairing spell, repelling spell, illuminating spell and lighting spell. Although there are only 9 spells, they are all very practical little spells, and even if you learn 1 spell a week, it will take 2 months to finish it. Therefore, the arrangement of teaching materials in the magic world is still very reasonable. Lou Ren thought about it for a while, and decided to follow the steps in the book to learn step by step. The first spell is the famous floating spell. The floating spell can make objects float in mid-air or slowly fly over. Gestures, waving and bouncing spell, Wingardium Leviosa? When I put a question mark, it's not me who has a problem but you who have a problem. What the hell teaching is this? I don't understand it at all. It's confusing. This short sentence is the description of the method of casting the floating spell in the textbook. Incredible. How does this cast a spell? Calm down, Lou Ren, you have to calm down. Lou Ren comforted himself. There's always no harm in trying. He took out his wand, floating life, Wingardium Leviosa. At the same time his own arm also waved and shook with his spell, waved and shook. However, it was of no use. The parchment in front of him was still lying quietly on the table. It seems to be the problem of the accent of the spell and the punctuation of the sentence. Lou Ren recalled for a while, remembering Hermione's teaching to Harry and Ron in the original book. It seems to be Wingardium Leviosa. Can you make it a little longer? While muttering, he tried again according to his memory, but unexpectedly, the parchment really floated up from the table, hanging 4 feet above his head. Success! Lou Ren was extremely excited. After all, this was the first time he cast a spell, a living spell, not a trick like blindfolding. After the excitement, Lu Ren fell into confusion knowing what is happening and not knowing what is why is Lu Ren's current state. Lu Ren didn't understand why this piece of parchment could overcome gravity and float in midair. The common sense of physics given to him by compulsory education told him that to make an object float in the air, it needs to give it a force that is opposite to gravity. But where does this force come from? Why can he just be equal to the gravity of the parchment? And in the process of casting the spell, what role does the spell play? Why does the same word, replaced by a different sentence, make the spell effective? A series of questions filled Lu Ren's head. And these questions also lead to some questions, such as why spells must be pronounced in English. Do French people need to learn English first to learn spells? Thanks to Dumbledore, I am able to speak, read and write English fluently under the spell of comprehension cast by the greatest wizard at present. Other wizards in the magic world should not have such benefits. Then how do those French perform magic? Their accents are to die for. If the spell begins with H, the French can't pronounce it at all. Confused, very confused. Lu Ren cast the floating spell a few more times, and now he discovered something. When he came to Hogwarts on the first day, he had sensed some special particles in the air, and these particles had caused the magic in his body to get out of control. Now he is used to the existence of these particles, and he can feel these particles at any time. And when he cast the levitation charm, some particles escaped from his arm, and these particles flowed along the arm into the palm, and finally into the wand, and when they flowed out from the top of the wand, the vibration frequency increased significantly. This stream of particles eventually hovers under the parchment, providing an upward force that keeps the parchment suspended in the air. It's really amazing. Although some particles are lost in my body, I can feel that my body is spontaneously and slowly attracting particles from the outside world. Eventually, the particles in the body and the outside world will reach a balance, and this spontaneous behavior will stop. Lu Ren was very excited. He could now understand the principle of the spell. Magic is nothing more than the use of a special energy in nature, and wizards are rare human beings who can feel the existence of magic particles. The wizard's use of magic is essentially the same as the photodiode's use of solar power to generate electricity. The casting of the spell should be divided into 3 parts. First, mobilize the magic of physical strength, funnel them into the palm of your hand, and transfer them to your wand. Subsequently, the wand acts as an amplifier, amplifying the tiny magic power to volume that can interfere with the existence of the outside world. The principle of the wand may be to allow particles to obtain higher energy. Finally, output magic power to complete the goal. For example, apply a force to the parchment until the 2 forces balance. That's why the parchment first floats off the table and then floats in the air, because the initial force is greater than its own weight. The parchment has an upward acceleration, but the force gradually decreases, and the acceleration also decreases, and finally the acceleration is 0. Generally speaking, casting a spell requires a wizard to manually complete these 3 parts, but these 3 parts look simple, but in fact they are quite complicated. In actual combat, novice wizards may not be able to do such complicated operations, so the magic spell was born. Period. The essence of the magic spell is similar to the functions already written in the program. Wizards can directly use the ready-made things as long as they call out the magic spell correctly and match the appropriate conditions. Similar to code, of course you can write functions on the spot, but it's troublesome. How fragrant is it to use the ready-made ones directly? After understanding the principle of the spell, Lu Ren immediately became enlightened. The spell in standard spells, beginner has lost the difficulty for him. Sure enough, you have to see the essence through the appearance. Lu Ren was very proud. I am a genius. End of this chapter. Chapter 11. Dumbledore, we need a talk. However, this emotion did not last long, and soon Lu Ren felt as if he had been poured with cold water. After the floating spell, Lu Ren cast the cutting spell, and it was easy to do. Even after concentrating on preparations, he could mobilize his own magic power to cut a parchment in half neatly without using a spell. The repelling spell after that is more or less the same. The fire spell was a little troublesome, but later Lu Ren tried to concentrate his magic power on one point, and it was able to ignite combustible objects. However, these incantations can only be cast by Lu Ren's own magic power, and reciting the incantation step by step has no effect at all. Levitation, cutting, fire, repelling, softening and lighting spells. These spells are very materialistic and can be explained by Lu Ren's theory, but the rest of the spells are very idealistic, like unlocking spells. I don't know the structure of the lock. How can I unlock it? It might be a good idea to blow open the lock. Isn't it just unlocked if the lock is blown away? But that's an open door effect. The oldest lockpicking spell is Open Sesame, which can tear the door from its hinges and split it into firewood before the invention of Allahu Hole Opening. The most popular lockpicking spell was Door Opening, which can smash the door lock, but sometimes leaves a smoking hole in the keyhole. Lu Ren can make it happen. But these spells are very rough, not as subtle as Allahu Hole. Allahu Cave first appeared in Africa, but the inventor has always been a mystery. The spell was brought to England in the 17th century by Eldon Ethrical and spread throughout the world. This kind of spell made it difficult for Lu Ren to understand. Why can a single spell make locks of various structures open without being damaged? This unscientific, but it's magical. After the teacher teaches, I will definitely understand. Lu Ren comforted himself in his heart. Time passed quickly, and when Lu Ren tried all the spells, it was already time for afternoon tea. Lu Ren decided to go to Dumbledore and talk to him. After all, 91 was a very special year. If you want to have the power to protect yourself in this strange magical world, then this year is a good opportunity. If you want to protect yourself, you must have enough cards, and if you want to have enough cards, you have to take advantage of the disintegration of the Soviet Union. For now, the only thing he can borrow is Dumbledore's power. I hope the conversation will be effective. Lu Ren prayed in his heart. Then he came to the principal's office. Ferrero. The stone beast got out of the way with his command. Lu Ren climbed up the steps, walked through the stairs, and saw Professor Dumbledore in the office enjoying afternoon tea. Oh, Lu Ren? Why are you here? Would you like some cookies? They're just baked and they taste very good. Dumbledore was still smiling, and he didn't feel unhappy because his leisure time in the afternoon was disturbed. Period. Thank you, Professor, for your kindness. We need to talk. Lu Ren was not polite, and sat directly on the chair in front of Dumbledore. Okay, but what do we have to talk about? Is it a bad time with Severus? No. Professor Dumbledore, I have a future prophecy here, and I think it is very necessary for you to know. Oh. Dumbledore raised his eyebrows indifferently. The Soviet Union is about to disintegrate. Dumbledore. To be precise, on December 12th of this year, the world's only second superpower will collapse. The world order will be out of balance. The disintegration of the Soviet Union is accidental, but it is also inevitable unless someone makes a strong move. But in my eyes, the future there is no such strong man in China. Dumbledore's expression became serious. This is a terrible prophecy. Not a prophecy, but something that will happen, Professor Dumbledore. It is not a good sign to rely too much on divination, my boy, said Dumbledore. Professor, I know. But if you want, I know it sounds ridiculous, but we do have a way to make a profit. If you want, at least you can get a considerable fortune. Lu Ren also had some not reconciled. Oh? You can talk about it. Dumbledore stared at Lu Ren with interest, making Lu Ren's heart shudder. This kind of seeing through everything is really uncomfortable. We can short the ruble. Lu Ren began to try to explain to the wizard in front of him some economic means that even he himself did not understand. Shorting itself is risky, but because I can see the future, it's the fastest way to make money. The specific method is this: we first borrow a large sum of galleons from Gringotts, and then we keep this huge amount of wealth. This is very critical. This is the key to our recovery. Even if we overturn, then we stipulate that the currency for lending and returning is the currency of the Muggle world, the ruble. In this way, we bind the wealth from this loan to the Muggle currency ruble. Lu Ren's tone gradually filled with confidence. This is indeed feasible, but how can we make a profit? Dumbledore's eyes gradually deepened. Because the ruble will become waste paper, Lu Ren said firmly. After the disintegration of the Soviet Union, the ruble will depreciate rapidly. At the beginning of the establishment of the Soviet Union, the value of the ruble was once very high. In the 60s, the exchange rate between the ruble and the US dollar reached 1:1. Until now, the exchange rate between the US dollar and the ruble is still stable in the range of $1 1.8 to 2.0 rubles, but at the end of 91, 100 US dollars could be exchanged for 17,000 rubles, and by 95, 100 US dollars could be exchanged for 450,000 rubles. Lu Ren's tone gradually became agitated, and he felt that he was getting closer to success. If he succeeds, he can get a sum of money that allows him to retire directly. To be honest, this operation is completely within the rules of the game, and Dumbledore should not obstruct it. This chapter introduces you the most convenient way to make money after time travel. Have you learned it? After learning, remember to vote for recommendation tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 12. I will send you to Nurmengard first. Luren didn't notice that Dumbledore's expression was gradually becoming weird, and he continued to chatter. Buying and selling? Government business entanglement? Shorting stocks? There is no more profitable business than abolishing a country's currency. The wealth of an empire that has ruled over half the earth for nearly half a century has been swept away. At this moment, just one bite is all it takes to support itself. There is no easier way to make money than shorting the ruble. The operation is very simple. First, borrow rubles on a large scale, and then exchange the rubles you get for dollars, gallons, or other currencies of the European and American camps, should no one be so stupid as to exchange them for currencies under the Soviet system. Then just wait for the ruble to collapse, and then exchange the currency in your hand into rubles, and pay off the debt to make thousands of times the huge profits. It's more profitable than printing money. This is currently the easiest way to make money, the only opportunity in 50 years. When Luren said this, he breathed a sigh of relief, picked up the lemon juice on the table and drank it in one gulp. He has gradually relaxed now, and he no longer felt nervousness when he first entered the door. He has always been like this. Before the exam, he was nervous and out of breath, but once he got a test paper, he could calm down. This may be the exam machine trained by the college entrance examination. However, Luren has no intention of ending the conversation, and now he needs to add a little leverage to this conversation. I wonder what Professor Dumbledore thinks about the fact that the only bank in the wizarding world is Gringotts, which is controlled by goblins. Luren squeezed a cookie into his mouth. How can the economic lifeline of a race be manipulated by a foreign race? The disintegration of the Soviet Union is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We can just take back part of the control of Gringotts. As far as I know, Gringotts is a joint stock system, which is good for us. The goblins have lent a large amount of money. At this time, the ruble exchange rate fluctuates. They will definitely continue to fill in funds in order to stabilize the exchange rate. At this time, their capital chain must be very tight, and we can take advantage of the opportunity to run what the bank fears most. It's a run on them, so as to smash their capital chain at once, and finally enter the market to harvest, and get back the shares of Gringotts. The Wizards' Bank has been kept by the goblins long enough, and it's time to take it back. Luren finished his speech. He thought his statement was convincing enough, and the operation was relatively simple. Professor Dumbledore would be tempted. Dumbledore was silent for a while, then he calmly poured himself a glass of lemon juice, and took out a silver jug from his arms. He took a sip of the drink in the jug, and then drank the lemon juice in one gulp. However, have you ever thought that prophecy is not completely reliable, and there will always be accidents? If the things in the prophecy will happen 100%, how can Grindelwald be defeated? What if it fails? We will pay for it a huge price. Faced with this situation, what would you do? Dumbledore asked Luren seriously. Luren cheered up. Look at the old man's tone. There is a way. We just need to drag it along, Luren said indifferently. Anyway, the goblins can't do anything to us, so we can't take a plane when we go out. Even if we sue the Wizengamot, do you think the wizard will lose the case to the Wizengamot? Goblins? It would just reveal that they have a huge amount of money locked up, which would be a disaster for the bank. Believe me, the moment Galleon is transported to Hogwarts, the outcome of this bit it's already confirmed. That's right, the solution Luren gave was lie. These days, it's the uncle who owes money. As long as Gringotts dared to move Galleon out of their vault, Luren would dare to instigate Dumbledore and the Ministry of Magic to swallow the money. From the very beginning, Luren had no intention of repaying the money seriously. The only flaw is whether Dumbledore is willing to tear his face to do this, but it is for the greater good. Dumbledore should be willing to make sacrifices in order for wizards to take back financial power. But what can make the goblins willingly empty their storage? Luren thought secretly. Genius idea. Wonderful exposition. Let me do the next operation. Dumbledore raised his hands and applauded softly. Are you worried about the choice of bait? What kind of bait can you use? Let the goblins take the bait. Professor, I'm really troubled by this. Do you have any ideas for saying that? Luren was a little surprised at Dumbledore's enlightenment. Old Ding actually agreed so quickly. It's unbelievable that things went smoothly. I thought Dumbledore could last a few more rounds. It's very simple. I can mortgage an item, and if the worst happens to this item at that time, just hand it over to the goblins. We don't need to tear ourselves apart. Dumbledore's eyes flashed a gleam. Professor, With all due respect, items with insufficient value can only earn a small amount of money, and insufficient funds will affect subsequent plans. Hogwarts, I plan to mortgage Hogwarts. Bang! Lu Ren knocked over the goblet directly. He didn't care about the lemon juice flowing wantonly on the table, and stood up in surprise. You actually have such a plan. You can actually mortgage Hogwarts. This was far beyond Lu Ren's imagination. The person in front of him was so strange and terrifying that he didn't look like Dumbledore in his memory. The man in front of him was very courageous. Professor Dumbledore is so courageous. He is the strongest white wizard of our time. It is this courage that can make him turn the tide. Lu Ren sighed now. Lu Ren has already pinched the king and exploded. It can be said that it is the beginning of Xianhu. The Gaunt family, the owners of Hogwarts Castle, is extinct. Now I am the headmaster of Hogwarts, and the headmaster's strength is unlimited. So I can naturally handle this castle. Dumbledore waved his hand. The lemon juice flowing on the table suddenly disappeared. Dumbledore stared into Lu Ren's eyes and said, "Besides, things may never be as good as the goblins think. You are right, as long as the money is in our hands, then we will be invincible. There is another one thing, Gringotts has to send the money to Hogwarts before the deal can start. Hogwarts will not be mortgaged until the money is sent." Dumbledore's eyes flickered. He said something very out of character for him. He picked up the last cookie on the plate and put it in his mouth. "However, before the operation begins, I have to send you to Nurmengard. Please recommend and collect." End of this chapter. Chapter 13. Who is Nurmengard imprisoned? Nurmengard? Question mark. Lu Ren turned pale with shock. This was just like a joke. Isn't this the same as putting on a sorting hat and knowing that he was sorted into Azkaban? Professor, there may be some misunderstanding here. Lu Ren said dryly. Haha, is there a college called Nurmengard in Hogwarts? The name is not very nice. I have something to do. I'll take a step first. The black-haired handsome boy looked stiff. He was talking to himself while walking backwards, trying to leave the principal's office. Although attacking Grindelwald was also a way, he didn't want to spend the rest of his life in High Castle. Seeing Lu Ren in a panic, a strange look appeared in Dumbledore's eyes. He stretched out his right hand calmly, and then poked forward, total petrochemical. To his surprise, Lu Ren quickly took out a magic wand from his trouser pocket, and then swung his arm vigorously. Hundreds of magic particles formed a small barrier in front of him. Dumbledore's spell and barrier, when they met, the barrier only lasted for a moment before it shattered, but it also managed to divert the curse from its direction and failed to hit Lu Ren. Lu Ren took the opportunity to turn around and run away. As soon as he opened the door of the principal's office, he felt to fall over. He was about to have a close contact with the ground, but he felt a light buoyancy supporting him, making him face the floating on the ground. You really surprised me a lot today. Now you should go to Nurmengard with me. Dumbledore left the table and walked behind Lu Ren. Professor, listen to my explanation. Listen to me. Silence and silence. Maybe because Lu Ren was too noisy, Dumbledore casually cast a silence spell on Lu Ren. Dumbledore turned his head to look at the bird rack behind the door, on which stood a large golden red bird similar in shape to a swan. That was Dumbledore's psychic beast, Phoenix Fox. Please, Fox, send me back to Nurmengard. Dumbledore grabbed Lu Ren with one hand, and stretched out the other hand to Fox. Thank you for your hard work. Fox glanced at Dumbledore, stretched out a golden paw lazily, and cried twice very perfunctorily the moment Dumbledore's hand touched Fox's paw. Both of them disappeared. Austria, Nurmengard Castle. The castle is surrounded by layers of snow-capped mountains in Austria. From a distance, only one tower can be seen, which is cold, dark and far away from people, very much in line with people's impression of a German guy. The castle was surrounded by a towering wall, and the Muggle repelling spell was cast on the wall, which prevented most people from discovering the abandoned castle like Hogwarts. There's magic around Nurmengard Castle to prevent disapparition, but like Hogwarts, such magic is no trouble to the Phoenix. When Lu Ren was free to move around, he was already standing inside the castle. To Lu Ren's surprise, the castle was not so dilapidated. It didn't look like it had been abandoned for decades. Lu Ren thought that the ground here would be covered with a thick layer of dust. The corners were full of cobwebs and moss, and few of the windows were intact. But the floor here, although not as bright as new, is not too dusty. There are slight mildew spots in the corners but not serious. There are a few small spider webs in the corners of the roof, and the windows are all intact. Of course, because of the long time, it looks a bit foggy. The layout of the whole house is very grand and luxurious, giving people a feeling of the Roman court. In the murals the two were standing in the hall of the castle. Facing them was a handsome 3-meter-high marble statue of a wizard holding a wand, engraved on the base of the statue, "For the greater good." Behind the statue is a circular staircase leading to the second floor. The two walked up the stone steps and finally came to a wooden door. The wooden door is made of solid wood, and just by looking at the grain of the wood, it can be seen that it is worth a lot. The various decorations along the way reveal low-key luxury, and these decorations may be worth tens of thousands of galleons. There is a doorknob on the wooden door, on which is carved an extremely ugly animal head, big crab-like eyes, and a huge mouth. It seems that there are only these two organs on the whole face. Why so ugly? Dumbledore and Grindelwald's door locks are ugly rivals. Luren complained about the aesthetics of the two. Sheep eater. Grindelwald's pet. Dumbledore explained from the side afterwards. He stretched out his right hand, and the mouth of his hand opened accordingly, splitting to an unimaginable angle, completely wrapping Dumbledore's hand inside. It's still fingerprint unlocking. The technology tree in the magic world is very, very strange. Luren's spirit of complaining was burning. The door opened. Luren walked into the room before Dumbledore. The entrance is a floor-to-ceiling window. In the afterglow of the setting sun, an old man is standing quietly in front of the window and looking into the distance. Luren felt his scalp explode. The old man in front of the window was tall and thin, with waist-length silver-white hair and a dark purple robe covered with silver stars. When he turned his head, Luren saw half-moon eyes with distorted nose, and blue lake-like eyes. Luren felt dizzy. "You came back a little early today. I didn't expect you to bring this child here," Albus Dumbledore said. It was Albus Dumbledore in Nuremberg Castle, and who was listening to his tirade today. Luren subconsciously grabbed the wand in his trouser pocket, and looked back at the person outside the door little by little. The beard and hair of the person outside the door are getting shorter and shorter, and his figure is gradually shrinking, and his eyes are no longer like a lake, but more like an eagle. After a while, a familiar face appeared in front of Luren, Gellert Grindelwald. "If you've been imprisoned for too long, you'll want to go out and move around. Don't be nervous, kid. Put away your little stick. It can't do me any harm. Don't worry, I got Albus when I went out." "I agree," Grindelwald said lazily. "Actually, I also hate going out for a walk, and I have to drink compound soup every time. It tastes terrible. There's a gentleman's agreement between us. Don't worry too much, my child," Dumbledore said to Luren. "I started the wizard war to save the wizard, but I failed. I won't make trouble when I'm not sure about saving the wizard," Grindelwald added next to him. "Otherwise a castle can hold me." Dumbledore ignored Grindelwald's words. He changed the subject. "Why did you come back so early today? And why did you bring Luren here?" Grindelwald smiled. "I heard some very interesting remarks today. I have prepared enough. Please recommend tickets and collections. Ask for recommendation tickets and collections. Ask for recommendation tickets and collections." Important things are said 3 times. New books are not easy. Please take care of them. End of this chapter. Chapter 14. Living with Grindelwald. Dumbledore raised his eyebrows. "What kind of remarks actually amuse you?" "Economics, Muggle economics. And this kid's talent for magic spells is extraordinary. He actually blocked my first holding spell." Grindelwald didn't answer Dumbledore's question directly, and he walked into the room, found an armchair next to the fire and sat down, then picked up a few sausages with baking tongs from the small table next to it, and grilled them on the fire. "Is that so? You still didn't say why you let Luren know about this matter. Only you and I knew about it in the entire wizarding world before." Dumbledore didn't get entangled in the so-called Muggle economics. He was willing to let Grindelwald know about it. Luren's behavior of coming here is even more concerned. It's not a big problem. It can be solved with a forgetting curse. I'm very optimistic about this child. This child has great potential. Maybe he can solve the problems that our generation can't solve. Grindelwald concentrated flipping the sausage. He replied casually. "This evaluation is very high. This child does have extraordinary talent." Dumbledore replied after a moment of silence. Luren blushed when he heard that. "I never thought that the 2 strongest wizards in the world would speak so highly of me." Grindelwald suddenly turned his face to Luren. "Young boy, are you curious about the duel in 1945? Before Luren could respond, Grindelwald began to chatter endlessly. "I'm usually stronger than Albus, but in the duel that day, I was slightly inferior and fell behind. Maybe I didn't even notice it. or I don't want to admit it, my heart was already messed up that day, and I actually didn't want to win. I have the same prophecy ability as you, and in my prophecy, I see an extremely terrifying future. To make matters worse, after the war, I found that I actually underestimated the abilities of muggles. It's just an inconspicuous bug, but it's so terrifying. Wizards are out of touch with the times. No, it should be said that muggles are developing too fast. My reform failed, not only did not save the wizards, but also caused the wizards to split into two parts and attack each other. This almost ruined the last vitality and essence of the magic world. I didn't realize until the end that I wasn't the one who could change the wizarding world, and neither was Albus, but at least he could be the paper maker and keep this mess going. The sausage was already grilled to the point of oil, and the fat oozed from the surface of the sausage, dripping onto the charcoal fire and crackling. The room was silent, only the sound of the fat bursting. Albus and I both failed, but one day, there will be a young man who can fulfill our long-cherished wish. A person who understands the magic world and the non-magic world, has outstanding magical talent and enough courage. Albus, you know that it is not your power that really imprisoned me in this tower, but a greater good. Before, for the stability of the magic world, I chose self-imprisonment. Now, I want to do something more. My prophecy is becoming reality little by little. Muggles' weapons are getting stronger and stronger, and their exploration capabilities are increasing day by day, while the Ministry of Magic is becoming more and more weak, rigid, and incompetent. During the Wizarding Wars, Voldemort would not survive more than 3 months, and you let him wreak havoc for so many years. What's even more tragic is that this person who inherited the name of the Dark Lord didn't come up with a set of programmatic ideas until he was defeated. I am desperate, but fortunately I met this child. We still have time. The balance between the non-magic world and the magic world has not been broken, and we still have the last chance. Grindelwald said seriously. What Grindelwald didn't say was that he hoped that Dumbledore could guide this young man well, not let him make the same mistakes, and ensure that this young man can continue the wizarding civilization. Hold out your hand, Grindelwald said as he removed the sausage from the fire and placed it on a silver tray, and then he said to Luren, you can choose to form an unbreakable bond with the two of us, Albus and I. You can also choose to forget what happened today. The choice is yours. But if you make the oath, you are destined to embark on a difficult road. Have you heard of the ancient magic of the unbreakable oath? I've heard of it. Luren replied, it's just that the usage scene is slightly different from now. He didn't dare to say this sentence, he could only complain secretly in his heart. Okay, Albus, please be the witness of the oath. Child, I hope that you will not be an enemy of the wizarding world in the future. Do your best to maintain the continuation of the civilization of the wizarding world, and find a way for the future of the wizarding world. This is, do you accept the oath? Grindelwald stared at Luren with his hawk-like eyes, and then stated his conditions. I accept responsibility. What good can I do? Everything between me and Albus. Okay, I will. Grindelwald stretched out his hand, Luren held it firmly. Dumbledore drew out his Elder Wand, and put the wand between Grindelwald and Luren's clasped hands. I, Luren, promise that I will not be an enemy of the magic world. I will do my best to maintain the continuation of the magic world civilization and find a way for the future of the magic world. After making the promise, a tongue of flame spewed out from the tip of the wand, wrapped around Luren's hand, and gradually solidified into a symbol of 3 drawn lines, a big circle with no seal inside, and a circle that was one size smaller inside, and the center of the small circle draws a straight line. The mark is like a flame chain, coiled around Luren's forearm, almost exactly the same as the command spell in Fate. At this time tomorrow, the mark will disappear automatically, and it will only appear if you try to trigger it. Dumbledore explained from the side. That's fine, otherwise it would be troublesome to wear such a tattoo. Luren thought in his heart. Can I go back to Hogwarts? Luren asked Dumbledore and the two of them. Now that the matter is over and the burden of the wizarding world has been lifted, can I go back to school first? No, you don't have to go back to school for the time being. Grindelwald grinned. I think you can spend a few weeks with me, just to help me out of boredom. Dumbledore, what do you think? Dumbledore took a deep look at Grindelwald, and then left the room alone without saying a word. With a loud phoenix cry, Dumbledore left the castle. Grindelwald grins, picks up a sausage with a fork, and conjures up a plate of bread, some jam, and even a comic book. That manga is still JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Ask for a recommendation ticket, collect it, and talk to the chapter. End of this chapter. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15: The Unexpected Demon King and the Pensieve. Lu Ren was a little speechless. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure came out so early. He always thought it was a comic in the 21st century. He didn't expect it to be updated to Stardust Crusaders in the 90s. And the key is not the update time of the manga, but the people who read it. What the hell is Grindelwald chasing comics? I know you're a geek, but I didn't expect you to be so nerdy. Grindelwald seemed to notice that Lu Ren was very interested in the comics in his hands, so he stuffed the comics into Lu Ren's hands. You should read it too, it's very interesting. Lu Ren woo big, 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 big. Grindelwald. Ola ola. The wood is big and the wood is big. So you watch JoJo too. X2. The distance between the two quickly narrowed with a cartoon. When I was locked in the castle at first, I couldn't feel the change of time, Grindelwald said after eating the sausage and lying comfortably in the armchair. At that time, I was immersed in pain every moment. But time will wear away the feelings, and gradually I become numb, no longer feel pain, only endless boredom. Every minute and every second is suffering, and it can be said that the days are like years. Grindelwald waved his hand, and a bottle of Coke that was steaming slightly appeared on the table. Do you read? I have read a lot of books during this period, various manuscripts in the wizarding world, Hogwarts books, and some Muggle literature. In the past 2 years, I came into contact with Japanese comics. Now I spend hundreds of pounds every month on comics. Guru guru. Grindelwald drank nearly half of the bottle of Coke in one breath, and then he conjured another bottle of Coke and handed it to Lu Ren. Did you read any novels in the Muggle world? Tell me about it. Lu Ren pondered for a while. I have indeed read a lot of novels, but they are all dusty in my memory. If there's something like a pensieve, I can recall it. The pensieve? Well, I do have it here. Albus often brings this pensieve for us to reminisce about the past. The last time I used it up, I haven't returned it to him. Grindelwald listened, and got out of the armchair. Lee stood up, then walked to his bed, groped under the bed for a while, and pulled out a silver basin filled with a cloud-like substance that was both liquid and gaseous. The mouth of the basin was engraved with runes and some other cryptic symbols. It is the pensieve that allows wizards to suck their memories out of their minds for others to watch. It's really good enough. This kind of personal item can be used by others at will. You have turned the perfect pensieve into a chamber pot. Lu Ren couldn't restrain himself, and began to complain. After all, from the storage location, the way it was taken out, to Grindelwald's attitude towards it, it was all too much like a urinal. Grindelwald blushed. Do you use it or not? Okay, I'll export the memory right now. Lu Ren didn't dare to continue talking, so he quickly took out his wand and began to export the memory of his previous life. After thinking about it, Lu Ren found a suitable novel. He had an intuition that Grindelwald would like to read this book. Even if it was just translated into English by a magic machine, it must be extremely brilliant. Streams of silvery flocculent fluid were pulled out from Lu Ren's temple by the magic wand, and flowed into the basin, forming a piece of bright, constantly flowing silver, rippling like the surface of water in the breeze, and flowing like clouds spread out and rotate gently. It was like light turning into a liquid, or wind turning into a solid. This was Lu Ren's memory. It's an extremely wonderful feeling. Obviously the memory is immaterial, but when the magic wand exports the memory, Lu Ren still feels that something inside his body has been pulled out. Addictive and unwilling to stop. Lu Ren took out the memories of reading that novel in his mind, only the first 30 chapters, but it seemed to fill up the entire pensieve, and then Lu Ren stuck his head into the basin, as if he was passing through a round pensieve. The skylight looks into the house. The light in the room was dim, because it was in the middle of the night, and the lights in the room were not turned on, only the phone screen was emitting a dim light. Lu Ren moved his face closer, his nose was almost tangent to the glassy substance. Lu Ren couldn't see the screen of the phone clearly, so he moved closer and touched the surface of the strange substance in the basin with the tip of his nose. Grindelwald's bedroom suddenly tilted over. Lu Ren's body rushed forward, and fell headfirst into the basin. Then, Lu Ren found himself sitting on the floor of his bedroom. In his previous life, the self in the previous life did not even notice that there was an extra self in the room. Yes, the phantom in memory will not respond to external interference. Although Lu Ren was able to review the novel, it wasn't an option. He couldn't squeeze into the bed with the Grindelwald and stare at the palm-sized screen. And how do I get out by myself? In the original book, it seems that Dumbledore took Harry out. I think we should find a way to deal with these memories. Grindelwald's voice rang softly in Luren's ear. Luren turned his head and saw Grindelwald standing beside him, looking at the phone screen with great interest. Is this the technology of the future? It's really beyond my imagination. I thought that a small box that could transmit sound for thousands of miles would be magical enough, but I didn't expect this kind of thing to appear in just a few decades. Peeping my memory without permission, is this what the elders do? Luren was a little displeased. For some things, doing something with permission and doing it on your own are completely different things. The room is a bit shabby, and seeing things in the dark is not good for the eyes. Also, the tiger doll on the bed is really exquisite. Grindelwald changed the subject. So what can Luren do? He has come and seen. Can he still forget everything about Grindelwald? However, Grindelwald reminded himself to look for opportunities in Europe to see if he could buy the tiger doll from his previous life. Without this doll, he would not be able to sleep well. How to get out? Luren thought about buying a little tiger, but there was no expression on his face. When the memory is over, you will naturally quit. Or you can choose to want to go out, and you can go out. But this time I can help you. Come on. As he spoke, Grindelwald reached out to hold Luren's elbow. Luren felt that he was slowly rising into the air, and his bedroom was dissipating, leaving only darkness in a blink of an eye. Then he feels like he's doing a slow-motion somersault, and his feet hit the ground suddenly, in blinding light, and he's already in Grindelwald's sunny bedroom. The stone basin glistened in front of him, and Grindelwald stood beside him. Ask for a recommendation ticket and collect it. You can also invest in it. I will continue to write it down, and this is just the beginning. End of this chapter. Chapter 16. The devil teaches you to use occlumency. Grindelwald, don't rush to get angry. I have a little gift for you. So you also know that it is indecent to peek at other people's memories without permission. Luren replied with a dark face. I promise you, you taught me how to learn, and no one will be able to peek at your memory in the future, and it is also good for me if you learn this. I am waiting to see the finale of Starfighter. Very anxiously, Grindelwald said sincerely, his voice extremely convincing and attractive. Occlumency? Are you going to teach me occlumency? Luren said excitedly. Indeed, occlumency is a magic that Luren is eager to learn. It can lock his brain so that others cannot come and go freely. After all, in the past few days since I came to Hogwarts, my brain seems to be a public toilet, and anyone can enter and exit. Although occlumency does not seem to be a panacea, but who would want to be naked if there is an extra layer of clothes? Occlumency. Grindelwald sneered contemptuously. This kind of rubbish deserves to be called a gift by me? Ordinary wizards who have learned occlumency can only guard against wizards who don't know legilimency. The most basic principle of occlumency is to clear the mind, not to think, not to recall, not to feel, so as to prevent the master of legilimency from feeling his own emotions and thoughts. Grindelwald explained to Luren slowly principles of occlumency. But it's almost useless when facing wizards with powerful mana. Grindelwald added, for example, Albus, his legilimency is almost instantaneous, no wand is needed, no chanting is needed. Casting a spell, all I need is to look at you. How do you clear your mind? Don't you use your mind when you talk to Dumbledore? The more advanced occlumency technique is to only block one's own specific thoughts, emotions and memories, thus creating an impeccable illusion for the legilimency master. Those who can do this are called occlumency masters. So you want to teach me how to selectively close my memory? Luren asked. Grindelwald glanced at Luren, and he couldn't help feeling that the kid in front of him was really shallow, but it was normal. He was just an 11-year-old muggle-born kid. Even though he was very talented, he was still ignorant. He felt that the young wizard should be taught a lesson. No. For the closed memory, if the legilimency seeks patiently, he can still find clues, and then he can use it with Veritaserum to effectively obtain information. Therefore, the most effective way is to attack. The truly great masters don't just teach you defense, they teach you counterattack. You have to learn to get rid of people who invade your brain. Come on, we can practice it. Luren, get ready, I'm coming in. Luren, please be gentle, I haven't done it a few times, it's still very tender. Grindelwald, Luren, tell you to drive recklessly. Grindelwald? Legilimency. Grindelwald made a surprise attack. Luren was careless, he didn't dodge, and he couldn't dodge, and before he had time to prepare to resist, The bedroom flickered and disappeared in front of his eyes, and pictures flashed in his mind like a revolving lantern pass. When he was 5 years old, he saw that he accidentally injured the finger of his childhood sweetheart, and his heart was filled with fear. He turned around and ran away quickly. The big brother next door blocked himself and asked him to apologize to the bamboo horse. He panicked and finally turned to the big brother. My brother was howling hysterically. He was sitting in the classroom, watching the sunshine on her face. Her ponytail was flicking in the air. She has a boyfriend that was the voice of a good friend. Let me tell you something, I'm off the list. No, no, Luren felt his brain churning, like boiling water. He yelled, you can't watch this, you can't watch, get out, this is personal. He felt as if his abdomen had been punched hard, and there was a sharp pain, and Grindelwald's bedroom appeared in front of him again. He realized that he was already kneeling on the ground, and his stomach felt sick, and several streams of acid water came out and dripped from the corner of his mouth onto the carpet. For the first time, it's not too bad. Grindelwald pulled Luren up. You finally stopped me, which was beyond my expectation. The difference between you and Dumbledore is not small. Grindelwald let out a burst of laughter. Yes, I am the Dark Lord. That girl is so beautiful, it's a pity. You saw it all. Luren wanted to hear a negative answer. I really want to say no, I saw some clips, but I basically figured out the main line of the story. Grindelwald shrugged his shoulders and spread his hands, indicating that he didn't want to do this either. From now on, I will invade your brain once a day until you can fight back quickly enough. Luren glared at Grindelwald. I will try my best, but you seem to have forgotten to tell me what to do. Abandon all emotions, restrain yourself, concentrate your thoughts, and hide your fear. Fear is the most powerful weapon for a mind reader. It's not difficult, is it? Luren took a deep breath. He suddenly realized something. If it is not beyond his expectations, legilimency is actually to intercept the electrical signals in the brain of the mind reader, and then translate the signals. Probably this is the operation, and the scientific community in the previous life can also do similar operations. Let people see the general shape of the dream of the sleeping person. Then I just need to put a barrier around my brain. Can I resist the invasion of legilimency? Luren's heart was pounding. You use legilimency again, this time with less magic power. After putting a barrier on his brain, Luren said to Grindelwald. Again? Satisfy you. Legilimency, bounce back, boom. The spell that Grindelwald cast casually was bounced off by Luren. Of course, the barrier in Luren's mind was also shattered and turned into little spots of light. Grindelwald, Greek letter Omega, ugh! Exclamation mark. You can always surprise me. Grindelwald said while shaking his head. Although he just released the spell just casually, and it was not enhanced by the wand, it was amazing enough for an 11-year-old child to block it. What a genius, thought Grindelwald. And this idea of manipulating magic power to form a protective cover is really strange. This kid doesn't seem to stick to magic spells anymore. He is more like manipulating magic particles as he pleases. It's amazing. He and Dumbledore were both in their 20s when they realized this. Your occlumency is qualified. Grindelwald said with a smile. You just need to increase your magic power output. End of this chapter. Chapter 17 Braised Pork, 2 in 1. As long as your magic power is sufficient, others cannot invade your brain. Your brain is safe now. But what I will teach you next is how to modify your own memory. Speaking of this, Grindelwald still rubbing his hands excitedly. If Luren can modify his memory, then he Grindelwald will be the biggest beneficiary, and he can enjoy the entertainment achievements of the next nearly 30 years in advance. So what should I do? Luren asked with some expectation. Memory itself is a part of ourselves. As long as you practice a little, you can change the shape of your memory. You can train with me every day, and you can do it. The current goal is to extract the novels and comics in your mind. Don't bring anything else. Luren. Okay, anyway, it's about emptying out emotions after the training. Luren also successfully condensed the predetermined novel in his mind into a stream of memory, and poured it into the pensieve. Seeing that Grindelwald was about to stick his head into the basin happily, Luren couldn't help coughing heavily. Mr. Grindelwald, do you think it's time to eat? At this time, several hours had passed since the negotiation in the office, and it was already past 7 o'clock in the evening. Luren hadn't eaten much after lunch, and was already hungry. There are ingredients in the food storage cabinet upstairs. You can cook it yourself. Grindelwald's heart has already flown into the pensieve. As for what to eat, it doesn't matter. The big deal is to give it to the child after reading the novel. 2 baked potatoes, with a few sausages and sauerkraut. Grindelwald plunged into the pensieve as soon as he entered the pensieve. He saw lines of words flying and arranged in the air, finally forming a novel. The grotesque dream full of whispers quickly fell apart, and Joe Mingrew, who was sleeping soundly, felt a throbbing pain in his head, as if he had been savagely swung with a stick. No, it was more like being pierced into his temple by a sharp object and accompanied by agitation. That's right, Lou Ren chose the most famous fantasy novel, The Master of the Bathroom, in the era before his time travel as Grindelwald's initiative reading. After all, this book is finished, so that Grindelwald will not be furious when he finds out that the novel has no end. Secondly, the Western setting of this book should be very pleasing to the old man, Devour reads for a while. At this time, Lou Ren also needed to make some food to satisfy his hunger. After all, although my eyes are innocent, but I can't fill my stomach, and I can't seek a job by relying on innocent eyes, let alone become famous. It would be absurd if these things could be done with innocent eyes. Still have to be down to earth to do things. It is difficult to find the location of the storage room with just one keyword: upstairs. Where is upstairs? However, Lou Ren's doubts were quickly answered. He left the bedroom and walked up the winding stone steps to the uppermost floor of Nurmengard Castle. There are no forks or rooms along the way, and the stone steps only lead to the house on the roof. Lou Ren pushed open the door of the house. The first thing that caught Lou Ren's eyes was a huge brightly lit kitchen, illuminated by the fire and wall lamps. It was over 100 square meters, so the interior of the kitchen seemed a bit empty. The floor is covered with a wool carpet, with a Hogwarts school emblem painted on it. Facing the door was a big 3-meter-long and 2-meter-high cabinet. Lou Ren walked to the cabinet, opened the door, and a gust of cold air rushed in. Inside the cabinet, fresh meat and bacon are stacked on top of each other. Dried meat, ham and other meat ingredients, large bundles of sausages, mountain-like pork belly, whole ribs. The meat-eater gene has awakened in Lou Ren's body, and these meats are teasing his nerves. The second layer is a variety of vegetables, the classic 3 giants of foreign cuisine: carrots, onions, tomatoes. Of course, there are also celery, eggplant, pumpkin, mushrooms, etc. There are always nearly 100 kinds of vegetables. The third layer is the staple food, including potatoes and bread, oatmeal. Even Lou Ren saw a bag of Vietnamese fragrant rice. The fourth layer is spices and seasonings. Hundreds of spices are packed in small boxes and neatly stacked. There is a large fireplace embedded in the left wall, and there are several tongs on the small grill of the fireplace. Lou Ren thinks that this fireplace can be used to barbecue. On the right side is the kitchen workbench. The basic pots, dishes, knives, forks and teacups are all fully equipped, and there are many strange kitchen utensils. Europeans do have a lot of things to do when cooking. There's even a special egg beater for beating eggs. Obviously a pair of chopsticks can solve the problem. What surprised Lou Ren even more was that there were many professional kitchen utensils on the workbench, and judging from the buttons, they should all be products of the Muggle world. It looks like I can show my skills. Lou Ren rubbed his hands excitedly. Lou Ren picked out a piece of pork belly weighing more than 4 caddies from the cupboard. The meat was tender and fat, and it looked like the best meat. Then Lou Ren picked out all the seasonings needed for braised pork, but he seemed to have encountered a problem. There was no soy sauce in the cabinet. Strictly speaking, there was, but it was Japanese sushi soy sauce, not Lou Ren's. The soy sauce and dark soy sauce that Ren needs. How can braised pork be without soy sauce? Braised pork can really be without soy sauce. In his previous life, Lou Ren learned a dish called Mao's braised pork, which was a branch of braised pork, and there is an interesting little story about the origin of this kind of braised pork. According to legend, there was a great man who loved braised pork since he was a child, but one day he saw a layer of maggots floating on the sauce tank in the soy sauce workshop. Since then, the great man could no longer eat soy sauce. Later, when a chef learned about this, he improved the recipe of the braised pork, using sugar and salt instead of soy sauce to color and season the meat after cooking. The color is golden, oily but not greasy. After the great man tasted it, it was very useful, so it spread. Lou Ren first ignited the stove, then heated up a large pot, put the pork belly skin down into the pot and scalded until the pig skin turned brown, then took out the pork and washed it with clean water. This step destroys the sweat glands and reduces the smell of the skin. Then cut the meat into cubes about 3 centimeters thick. Then Lou Ren put the meat into a pot of cold water, then added scallions, ginger and cooking wine, This cooking wine was actually placed in the wine cabinet. I'm afraid only Merlin knows what Grindelwald has done to this bottle of cooking wine. Then there's blanching. The meat must be blanched. After blanching the meat, Luren took out a meat and washed it, then put it in a small grate for later use. He set up another pot, added a permissible amount of oil, and then put the meat in it to stir fry for a while to get the fat out of the meat, and at the same time let the meat set its shape. Afterwards, Luren poured out most of the oil, leaving a part of the bottom oil, and when the bottom oil was heated again, Luren put a few large pieces of rock sugar in it. Sugar color is the key to this dish. Luren also calmed down and became serious. He kept stirring the spatula, and soon the rock sugar melted in the oil, turning a maroon color, and thick bubbles appeared, a bit like beer just poured out. At this time, he poured in the boiled water that he had prepared by the way while blanching, and the sugar color was fried at this time. The color of sugar will have a bitter taste after being fried for a long time. Thanks to the well-developed food delivery industry and the cramped public kitchen in the rented house in his previous life, Luren has never cooked braised pork a few times in his previous life, so Luren has no idea about the level of sugar color. Travelers also have limits. Luren scooped out the sugar, rinsed the pot briefly, then poured in a little bit of the previous oil, added star anise, cinnamon, bay leaves, green onion, garlic, dried chili, and sautéed until fragrant. When the aroma is overflowing, add the meat and sugar and stir fry. When the flesh turns slightly yellow, Luren poured a can of beer into it. Beer is the secret recipe taught to Luren by his grandmother. All kinds of stewed meat dishes can be flavored and relieved by adding beer. Finally, add water, and then turn the shallots into knots and add them. The semi-finished meat does not have the sparkling feeling that braised pork should have, but once the juice is collected, everything will change like magic. Chinese cuisine is simply the closest to magic in the Muggle world. Luren sprinkled a little salt and cooking wine in before covering the pot. The next thing is to simply cover the pot and cook. It takes about an hour to simmer, so Luren also steamed rice, mixed cucumbers, cut 2 lemons, and made a glass of lemon honey water. When the time was almost up, Luren opened the lid of the pot, and an extremely rich aroma rushed directly to Luren's face, making the smell of meat in the room even more intense. The meat in the pot was already bright red. Luren quickly picked out all kinds of seasonings, and then collected the juice on high heat. A pot of Mao's braised pork was ready. This color is as beautiful as adding pigments, bright red. Luren secretly exclaimed. The arrangement of the braised pork is also particular. First, arrange the meat piece by piece in a bowl. The layers should not be too messy, and then cover the bowl with a plate. Then just turn the bowl and plate upside down. Take the bowl away, and there is a round braised pork like a small hill. Luren poured the little bit of broth left in the pot over the meat, and the dish was completely finished. Luren brought this dish, rice, cold cucumber and iced honey lemonade to Grindelwald's bedroom downstairs. After a while, Luren returned to the bedroom with a pot of rice, and Grindelwald had already escaped from the pensieve. Grindelwald pointed to the 2 plates on the table and said, "I've already made dinner, bacon sandwiches, grilled sausages and German specialty sauerkraut. Let's eat it while it's hot." Grindelwald said with a proud said to Luren in a tone, as if it was a great honor to have dinner with him. In the eyes of outside wizards, this is indeed a deed that can be boasted for a long time. As he spoke, Grindelwald grinned and showed a mouthful of white teeth. The teeth of a person at such an age are actually not bad, and a strange thought suddenly popped into Luren's mind. You should try German food. Tomorrow we can have a roast pork knuckle with sauerkraut. Luren raised his eyebrows and looked at the 2 dishes, rye bread with dark bacon, stringy sauerkraut with a strange smell and dark sausage. He took a deep breath. Why don't you try my cooking tonight? The mysterious food from the Far East. Think about it carefully. How good a cooking skill can you expect from a person who is as powerful as an emperor? Even if this guy loses power, Dumbledore will pamper him. Looking at the types of food in the storage room, you can tell that Grindelwald's life is quite nourishing even if he is imprisoned in the castle. Luren misunderstood Grindelwald. Although Dumbledore provided sufficient ingredients, he did not provide Grindelwald with auxiliary roles such as servants, so Grindelwald was self-reliant most of the time. All in all, after self-reliance for so long, but the craftsmanship is still the same, it is really hopeless. But Grindelwald cooks for me, it feels so good. Luren was still very happy. Luren didn't wait for Grindelwald to refute, or be arrogant. He hurried to the kitchen and brought down the dinner. No, I'm not used to Central Plains food. Although his throat rolled up and down, Grindelwald still calmly glanced at the braised pork in front of him, and said expressionlessly, Personally, I prefer German food and I can't sleep without sauerkraut. Okay. Luren didn't have the habit of persecuting the old man. He spread his hands to express his respect for Grindelwald's personal choice. He first served himself a bowl of rice, then picked up a large piece of steaming braised pork with dripping soup with chopsticks, put it in front of his mouth and blew it, then swallowed the meat in his mouth and chewed special chew. The gravy exploded, and the strong sugar aroma combined with the soft and glutinous meat burst out a taste that would make the soul tremble. Luren chewed a few mouthfuls and swallowed the meat. Then there is a spoonful of rice, with a little soup poured on it. The taste is not inferior to braised pork. Luren started to gobble it up, and Grindelwald, who was sitting across from him, could clearly hear the sound of the gravy bursting in his mouth, and he could also smell the aroma coming from the opposite plate, which made his bacon sandwich extremely hard to swallow. Pharynx. Stop. So much meat, have you eaten? How can you do so much? Grindelwald said sadly, you are a shameful waste. Young people today have not lived a hard life. During the war years we are all thrifty. Every grain of rice and every bite of bread must not be wasted, but you are lucky to make so much at once. Grindelwald's eyes popped out. If he hadn't seen Grindelwald's movie, Luren would have believed it, but in order to take care of the face of the elderly, he still swallowed the sentence, if I can't eat today, I can eat tomorrow, and instead invited Grindelwald to help eliminate these dishes. Grindelwald cleared a dinner he made into the trash can calmly, then filled himself with a bowl of rice, and joined the ranks of eating and drinking. Of course, he kept his mouth shut and kept saying things like, I don't like to eat these, I just want to reduce waste, which also opened Luren's eyes. Ask for recommendation tickets and collections, 2 chapters in 1. End of this chapter. Chapter 18. That son dear Grindelwald is really amazing. Hi. Grindelwald swallowed the last piece of braised pork, then poured the rice from the bowl onto the plate, ate all the broth mixed with the rice on the plate, and fell comfortably into the armchair, beating a full burp. It's too greasy, it's murder for a centenarian. But I'm a thrifty person, and I don't want to waste it, so I reluctantly helped you with these burnt meat. Don't get me wrong, I don't care about these, not interested. Also, next time, find a way to remove the slightly bitter part of the meat, which will affect the taste. The shredded cucumber is too thick, so cut it thinner. Your knife skills are really bad. One more thing, the honey lemonade is too poorly made, the lemons haven't been marinated enough, it tastes too sour, don't use it as an example. Grindelwald, who was full of food and drink, was not overwhelmed by Luren's delicious food. He poured cold water mercilessly, and the situation in the room was once again under his control. Grindelwald also realized that something was wrong after all. As a great demon king who used to rule the magic world and call the wind and rain, today he has lost too much style, a deadhouse who loves to read comics and novels, a cooking idiot who can't cook, and a gluttonous foodie. The 3 attributes must not be associated with him, Grindelwald. So he definitely uses tactics. The dead duck has a hard mouth. As long as I don't admit it, no one will know that I really like it. And these foods are indeed very ordinary. It's just that I haven't eaten delicious food for too long. I think back then, even in the state of war, the saints who followed him would try their best to make the food enshrined to him perfect. Even on the eve of defeat, his meals were as exquisite as ever. Good memories will not fade with time, but become clearer in repeated thoughts because of the long-term residence in Nuremberg Castle, even artificially beautified by memory. Otherwise, why do some people always think that the food cooked by mother or grandma is the most delicious? It was the thought of fond memories that drove him out of the castle for a walk. But these words have no effect on Luren. Luren knows that this is textbook-style arrogance. Obviously the body and eyes are so honest. Luren ate at most 1/3 of the big bowl of meat just now. Grindelwald ate all the rest, but after eating, he still has to pick and choose here. It's really like scolding the monk after reading the scriptures, and beating the cook after eating. But thinking about it carefully, what I did was really ordinary in the eyes of Grindelwald. After all, in his previous life, he cooked most meals for female classmates of the same class. He is a top boss in the magic world. If he hadn't traveled through time, he wouldn't be worthy of washing blankets for Grindelwald. Luren was glad that Grindelwald had fed him pig food for decades. Even when he was released to Hogwarts, he couldn't eat Hesse nonsense. Professor McGonagall was very strict, so in theory, his favorability is relatively easy to brush. After drinking and eating, the 2 men didn't have much entertainment, so the 2 could only chat about everything. Throughout the ages, people have been particularly keen to rank the strengths of the big shots from all walks of life. And a very strange reason has been derived from this. The person who defeats the number one in the world is the new number one in the world. This is actually quite nonsense. For example, many League of Legends mid laners in later generations always have an illusion: I kill Faker online solo, and I am the world's number one mid laner. Please be sober, the Faker is still the Triple Crown. Albus Dumbledore is known as the strongest wizard in the magic world today, because he once defeated Grindelwald and is single-handedly the one who took office first. But in Lu Ren's eyes, Grindelwald's strength is still slightly better than Dumbledore's. Old Deng can win because of the right time, place, people and three elements. In Lu Ren's eyes, Grindelwald is still the number one magician in the world. It's like there are as many as 14 players who have solo killed Faker in history, but when asked who is the world's number one mid laner, most people will still say, Faker. Faker was solo killed 14 times and is still number one in the world. Isn't it a bit wrong that Grindelwald, who was solo killed only once, became the world's second? Everyone knows that Dumbledore became the number one in the world by defeating Grindelwald, but who knows how Grindelwald became the number one in the world in the previous generation? It's very simple. Before meeting Newt and losing to Dumbledore, Grindelwald was in a state of God blocks and kills God, Buddha blocks and kills Buddha. Even the US Ministry of Magic believes that more than 20 experienced aurors are needed to counter Grindelwald, and it only takes 10 wizards to subdue an adult fire dragon. What does auror mean? It means that applicants must obtain at least 5 Newt certificates and be very good at potions, defense against the dark arts, transfiguration and charms. Applicants will need to have grades above good in these subjects. In addition, a series of strict personality and talent tests are required, and there is even a political review. According to Professor McGonagall in 1995, actually, I don't think they've accepted a new auror for the last 3 years. As you can see, there hasn't been a single new auror in 3 years. We can speculate based on Moody's. Moody was active during the First Wizarding War, 1970 to 1981, when he was already an auror at this time. He was at least 20 years old, because it took 3 years of training to become an auror after graduating from Hogwarts. So Moody was at least 20 years old to become an auror. We estimate that he retired in 1990, so his minimum working time is 30 years. In the past 30 years, there may have been only 10 new aurors. The total number of new and old aurors in the British Ministry of Magic will not exceed 20. As for the named aurors that appeared in the original book, there are only 15 people in total from the parental generation to Harry's adulthood. According to records, when the United States Ministry of Magic was founded, there were only 12 aurors. Otherwise, they actually had 12 aurors. So Grindelwald can match the strongest combat power of the Ministry of Magic of the two countries on his own. With reverence, coupled with the knowledge he learned from fantastic beasts and where to find them in his previous life, Lu Ren became a qualified fan. He successfully guided Grindelwald to talk about his legendary experience in the American magic world, and this it also succeeded in scratching Grindelwald's cool point, so the two had a pleasant and harmonious conversation. Lu Ren heard all kinds of good news and supplemented some basic knowledge of the magic world. Grindelwald re-established his image, which can be said to be a joy for the host and guest. Time flies, and soon it is 10 o'clock in the evening, and this pleasant and harmonious conversation is coming to an end. Grindelwald poured himself and Lu Ren a glass of beer each. I have one last thing to ask you. Where do you think the future of the wizarding world is? Grindelwald asked casually. Ask for recommended tickets and collections. End of this chapter. Chapter 19: A Bright Future for the Wizarding World. Are you worried about the future of the magic world? Lu Ren responded easily. Actually, there is no need to worry. I have 3 ideas about the future of the magic world. Which one do you want to hear? Let's talk about the worst case scenario first. It's very simple. The wizards launched raids on the dignitaries of various countries and used the Imperious Curse to control them, thus indirectly controlling the magic world. Lu Ren said casually. But there are also risks. Grindelwald sneered. As expected of the worst. Yes, this method has many disadvantages. Lu Ren admitted frankly. First of all, we must face resistance from the wizarding community. Wizards like Professor Dumbledore are definitely opposed to doing this. That's right, and such wizards are the mainstream. Basically, except for my saints, no one will do these things, not even the Tom's Death Eater. Grindelwald glanced at Lu Ren. He suddenly wanted to test this young junior. Go on. And this kind of behavior will expose the wizarding world to the eyes of the non-magic world sooner or later. In this case, it is very dangerous to appear in a hostile position. You're right. The analysis is okay. Is there any more? And who said that controlling the head of the government can control all muggles? If you really believe this, you must have watched too many Hollywood movies. Having said that, Luren and Grindelwald laughed at the same time. Indeed, saying that you can control the government by controlling the head of the government is just coaxing children, and normal people will not believe it, not to mention the Central Plains, which is in the Forbidden Area, and other countries in Europe and the United States. There are many constraints from the prime ministers and presidents. Countless government heads are doing nothing during their tenure. What if you control him with an imperious curse? Unreasonable orders will be returned, and excessive operations will lead to their resignation, and they will not be able to achieve their goals at all. So I feel so stupid. Luren spread his hands, saying that this was just the worst of the three plans. Besides, I want to tell you something, Grindelwald said, shaking his slender fingers. You're not a wizard, and it's normal if you don't know. Ordinary wizards can only use the imperious curse to control a person. Even if it is also difficult for a dark wizard who is proficient in the imperious curse to control too many people, and the number of wizards is limited. How can they control all the political leaders of various countries? That is unrealistic. Let's talk about the second plan, Luren. We can build a big ship, and all the wizards will take this ship to wander in the universe. Pooh, Grindelwald spat out the beer he had just drank, and he almost choked. I didn't expect you to have a talent for being funny. I'm serious. We can increase the internal volume of the big ship through the untraceable stretch spell, so that the ship can accommodate more people. We can use magic to catalyze the ripening of food, and with various advanced Muggle technologies, traveling far in the universe is not a fantasy. Luren said seriously. This is indeed one of the ways Luren found for the magic world, combining the magic of the wizarding world with the advanced technology of Muggles. I am afraid that interstellar travel can really be realized. Anyway, magic is very mysterious, and all kinds of missing things can be made up through magic. For example, you can use magic to make a piece of land very fertile and produce a lot of food, and these foods can also be ripened by magic. Hagrid, a student who dropped out of school, can make his pumpkin grow extremely huge. The wizard can only do better. But this is just a preliminary idea in Luren's mind. Let's find a way to realize it in the future, Luren thought. And the way of thinking in this way is also very obvious. We in the magic world admit that we are cowardly. Can't we afford to hide if we can't provoke me? This sentence is also the way of thinking in the magic world now. Muggles are so powerful that they can't beat them, but we can hide them. But there will always be a day of exposure in the future, so I, Luren, simply won't play with you. Can't we wizards go into space by ourselves? The shortcoming is naturally leaving home, and if there is any unsolvable trouble encountered on the way, then the magic world will really be extinct. Okay, Grindelwald said perfunctorily. This kid has read too many science fiction novels, but I really want to see the science fiction movies in his mind. A child is a child. You are too young, too simple, and sometimes too childish. I think I need to impart some knowledge and life advice to you in the future. Luren didn't bother to say more to him. My third plan is to directly show down with the Muggles, abolish the Secrecy Act, and thoroughly contact the Muggle community. As far as I know, you are now trying to do this. Anyway, now the British Prime Minister knows about the existence of the wizarding world. Grindelwald was silent for a while. That's right, he smiled softly. The Prime Ministers are aware of this, but we will erase their memories when they leave office. We're just trying to better cooperate with the government, and we're just using it purely. So your ideas are outdated enough. Luren snapped his fingers, and he suddenly got excited. Magic uses an unknown energy, and this energy can only be used by wizards at present. What a huge advantage this is. It turns out you're all wasting money. A brand new energy, if it can be promoted, it will be another industrial revolution. It will be a huge boost to productivity, and human society will develop accordingly. The use of coal gave birth to the first industrial revolution, oil brought the second, electricity the third, and magic may start the fourth industrial revolution. If any country can seize the opportunity in the industrial revolution, it will ascend to the throne of hegemony. So what does this have to do with the magic world? What benefits do wizards get? Grindelwald interrupted Luren's eloquent speech impatiently. Even if he was interrupted, Luren was not angry. Isn't it the greatest benefit to be able to walk in the sun in an upright manner? Moreover, wizards can sit firmly on the diaoyote in the New Order and become a new world leader just by virtue of their ability to use magic power. A part of the top of the pyramid, Isn't this much more effective than direct aggression? And in the worst case, we can also take advantage of the conflicts between Muggle countries. For example, we tell the Americans that the British have accepted wizards, and tell the British that France has already used magic. For France, we can find Germany. As for Germany, the Soviet Union, oh no, Russia is a good target one by one. No country dares to reject the wizarding world. After all, their neighbors have accepted it, haven't they? Grindelwald was lost in thought. That's it for today. Lu Ren asked, where's my bedroom? You sleep with me. Grindelwald was still immersed in thinking, and he replied casually, my bedroom is quite big. Quickly bookmark and vote for recommendation. I have some good ones here. End of this chapter. Chapter 20. Brother Jay don't want it. Did he and his friends really like that quote? No. What they like more is the people who say this, those girls who are full of youthful spirit. But now Lu Ren was about to face this problem directly. To follow or not to follow and be coerced by force to follow, this is a problem. Lu Ren didn't want to. But he doesn't seem to have a choice. What does Grindelwald want to do? Can he, a child with an 11-year-old physical age and a 33-year-old mental age, be able to stop it? Well, I'm just an 11-year-old kid now, Grindelwald, you beast, who is not good to learn from Zhenhu. Lu Ren roared in his heart, but he was still very calm on the surface, expressionless. In fact, Grindelwald is not bad, at least he is still handsome, and at such an age, he doesn't have much energy. How about, a terrible idea suddenly appeared in Lu Ren's mind. Hot eyes, how can I do this? Lu Ren began to panic and bewildered. Wait a minute, he just said to sleep together in this bedroom. I think I should be thinking too much. Lu Ren began to comfort himself. He pretended to be calm and asked, then I see there's only one bed here, where should I sleep? Grindelwald stopped thinking, raised his head, and said in surprise, of course I slept in the same bed with me. This bed is quite big, and it is more than enough to sleep two people. Grindelwald read a lot of books during his autistic period, including some Oriental books. He knew that the high-ranking people in the East would use the trick of lying on the same couch, sleeping on the feet to win over their subordinates, and the child in front of him deserves to be put down by Grindelwald to win him over. Lu Ren's heart fell to the bottom. His face was cold and expressionless. His heart was as cold as a stone. It's inappropriate. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. Lu Ren praised his face and said dryly, there's nothing inappropriate. Today we chatted very happily and hit it off. I'm optimistic about you. Tonight, regardless of age, we can get to know each other deeply and have a good heart-to-heart talk, just like Albus and I did back then. Lu Ren was dizzy when he heard same as Albus back then, as if someone had hit his head with a hammer in the following words. He only heard something like understand deeply, talk heart-to-heart, what else to say, Stonehammer, you and Dumbledore when you were young, all kinds of fanfiction can be printed out to circle the earth. It's over, I lost my integrity today. I didn't expect that the virginity I kept in my previous and present lives would be dedicated to a bad old man today. No matter how handsome Grindelwald was when he was young, there is not much left when he is over 100 years old. And is it a handsome question? This is the principle, the bottom line. If the bottom line is broken today, what about the future? After the bottom line is broken, it will only get lower and lower. Yes, I, Lu Ren, will keep my integrity today. No, I'm going to sleep in another room today. Lu Ren said in a serious tone, pushing the words out through his teeth. Grindelwald? Question mark. Why is the effect different from what I saw in the book? Is this kid too shy? Wait a minute, it seems that there is another step ahead, which I skipped. No wonder, there is something wrong with my steps. Grindelwald suddenly realized. He turned around and took out half a bottle of wine from the cupboard by the window. If you have the heart, you can finish my half bottle of wine. Grindelwald can be said to have spent all his money. Even he couldn't bear to drink this wine. This is a good wine that one of his partners gave him back then. It is not an ordinary wine, but a magic wine with magic power. It can effectively enhance the magic power and repair the dark wounds of the body. Over the years, Grindelwald only drank half a bottle. This wine is the only one in the world. Grindelwald showed a painful expression, but in order to win over Lu Ren and for the future of the magic world, he still had to make sacrifices. People in the Central Plains like to be modest, so I said it very tactfully. I could not directly say that this wine is very precious, but said, can you, haha, I am really a Central Plains expert. Although it hurts, Grindelwald is still complacent because of his understanding of the Central Plains. No one knows the Central Plains better than me. This sentence completely changed in Lu Ren's ears. It's flirting, it's definitely flirting. Lu Ren felt that the situation was serious. No need, minors should not drink alcohol. Grindelwald glanced at the remaining beer foam in Lu Ren's glass, and felt that the kid was definitely trying to perfunctory him. It's really ignorant. Grindelwald is also a little annoyed. Grindelwald has been in the magic world for decades, and he has always been a younger brother who accepts his head and worships him. There's hardly anyone who can make him so caring. As a result, I hit a wall repeatedly today. Okay then, I won't drink the wine. Although there were a few setbacks, Grindelwald still didn't give up his plan to fall asleep. But I have an ointment here, you need to apply it. Is this your first time today? Oh, maybe Dumbledore has done this to you. Anyway, you are still very sensitive, and you need ointment to moisten it, so as not to get hurt. This was indeed a good intention. Even if Lu Ren didn't drink his wine, sleep in his bedroom, or talk to him in the end, he would still give him the ointment because his magic power invaded Lu Ren's brain today. The brain is an extremely delicate organ, and a slight damage will lead to extremely serious consequences. Fortunately, Grindelwald had specially formulated an ointment to nourish the body and remove dark wounds, so as long as you apply this ointment, it's not a big problem. However, the word Grindelwald used this time is cream, which was translated into essential oil in Dumbledore's automatic translator. So at Lu Ren's place, what he heard was, you need to apply this essential oil. Principal Dumbledore is such a respected person, he wouldn't do such a nasty thing. Lu Ren couldn't bear it anymore, and shouted loudly. Grindelwald was taken aback. Didn't Dumbledore invade the child's brain? This is unrealistic. This is not the Dumbledore I know. Well, maybe he took advantage of your inattention. No, it's impossible. How can you not feel it after this kind of thing? Grindelwald, mixed feelings. We won't talk about that, but the ointment has to be applied. Do I have to apply essential oils? Yes, it must. Grindelwald showed his Dark Lord's aura and ordered Lu Ren to take away his ointment. I saw that the eyes of the child in front of me lost their highlight and gradually became hollow. He finally took the ointment. This is a good boy. Wait, what are you doing? Stop, don't take off your pants, that's not where the ointment was put. Ah, my eyes. Spicy eyes. End of this chapter. Chapter 21. You're the cooking immortal who blows a hammer. I didn't expect you to be so filthy at such a young age. Grindelwald immediately, not particularly immediately, stopped Lu Ren's wrong move. The two quickly resolved the misunderstanding. It's so nasty. Who do you think I am? Grindelwald was indignant at this. Get lost. Then he kicked the embarrassing Lu Ren out of the room. Fortunately, there are still many guest rooms in Nuremberg Castle. Lu Ren found a room with a reasonable layout, normal orientation, and acceptable hygiene to live in, and used it as his bedroom for the past few days. By the early morning of the next day, Grindelwald had already returned to his calm state, and he didn't say a word about what happened yesterday. Then they started their daily teaching. From a general rational point of view, the biggest obstacle to studying abroad is the language barrier. The wizarding world is no exception, and it also suffers from the nagging problem of language barriers. In addition to studying honestly, the best solution for wizards is to forcefully implant a language through memory modification spells in their minds, but this is too dangerous and requires the caster to have extremely superb magical skills. Keep most wizards out of the threshold. After all, there are quite a few wizards who can't cast even a single iron armor curse. After 7 years of study, and wizards who have experienced systematic teaching are already the best in the wizard class. So at least it is safer to let someone at the level of a Hogwarts professor earnestly modify it for you. This method is very difficult to popularize. As for the Eternal Understanding Curse, only Albus Dumbledore can cast it in the wizarding world. Therefore, the language problem is still the biggest obstacle to communication between wizards. Fortunately, Lu Ren didn't need to think about this issue in order to be able to learn as much magic knowledge as possible. Most wizards at the top of the magic world usually master several to dozens of different languages, so Grindelwald can naturally speak English, and this guy is still a standard speaker. Cockney. As a pure passerby, Lu Ren talked about everything, and Grindelwald's English was very nice and charming. I believe you have also discovered that the words that people use in daily communication are not the cornerstone of magic spells. For example, a muggle, even if he pronounces the sound of Avedon as a big melon with an incomparable standard, unable to cast the spell. The spell actually originated from ancient runes. Grindelwald began to talk endlessly about the origin and basic principles of the spell. It was a chance for Lu Ren to hear the course given by the person who understood the spell the most in the magic world. It can be said that it has benefited a lot. That's it, let's stop here today. Grindelwald finished his morning teaching, and then began to beg for food. Lu Ren had no choice but to cook for the teacher honestly. As a result, Grindelwald was still picky and gave various faults. You should really learn from the masters of Japan. They hang their lives and prepare every dish seriously. You are in the kitchen, you are the chef, and you must have the spirit of craftsmanship. Grindelwald said while picking his teeth. Seeing his attitude, Lu Ren was furious. Squint your eyes, since you dare to use Dongpo people as an example, you are asking for your own death. I'm going to beat you today, and Dumbledore can't stop it. A Japanese grandfather, who has been cooking for decades, has become a cooking fairy, and a bowl of rice can sell for hundreds of dollars. A Japanese grandfather, who has fried all kinds of things for decades, has become the god of tempura. A piece of fried leaf sells for hundreds of dollars. It's troublesome to make an appointment. I can make up, different routines of this routine. Is there no such person in the Central Plains? There are too many Central Plains in my hometown of Quancheng. There is a steamed stuffed bun shop called Yehu Hao. My dad has been selling boiled chicken and crab meat buns there since he was a child. After decades of hard work, you can barely say life hangs on your life, right? The price is low and fair, the materials are affordable, and there are no chain stores. They didn't come up with a Lao Shizi's boiled chicken or the god of crab meat bun. There is also the crispy pot downstairs in my house, which has been made for more than 30 years, and the pot of broth has a history of 30 years. The soup can be used as a seasoning, and no one can make them a god of crispy pots. In the final analysis, donkeying people are still bragging and good at marketing. People in the Central Plains are honest and don't know how to brag, so the reputation of good things is not obvious. What kind of craftsman spirit are they exporting? Is it selling white rice? That sells the story behind the rice. How dare you say it's not delicious? If you dare to say it, then you are a layman, you don't understand the artisan spirit, and you are a piece of social garbage, the kind that cannot be recycled. In fact, this thing is almost like a luxury. Louis Vuitton's woven bag may be better than the one on the construction site, but it is still a woven bag. Tempura, the god of tempura, may indeed taste better, but there is always a little credit for the ingredients themselves, right? Ordinary people can't taste much difference, and the efficacy beyond the tempura itself is even more nonsense. Dare to say that fried food is low in calories, which really subverts basic science, and it is recommended to award the Nobel Prize, the blowing award. After speaking a lot of words, Grindelwald was stunned. I'll just talk about it, and you're serious? Are you the reincarnation of Jack so good at leathering? Seeing that Grindelwald was in a daze, Lu Ren decided to give him a fatal blow, and let me tell you that the food safety in donkeying actually has a big problem. Anyone who has worked in various light food restaurants knows that. I have a friend. When he was studying in Japan, he brushed pots in a high-end Western restaurant for several months. Western food pays attention to presentation, so you must use clips, but every time you clip them, the clips will be stained with soup, and continue to use it. Contaminate other ingredients. The craftsman in your mouth solves it like this. Lick it clean with your mouth as expected of a craftsman. You can do things that we can't do at all. In terms of food safety, everyone is the second brother. Don't laugh at the big brother. There are good shops and bad shops in every country, so don't generalize. You think Dongpo is like that because they can play tricks. Lu Ren, complacent. Grindelwald, speechless and even a little disgusting. At the same time, Grindelwald made up his mind in his heart that he would never eat those beautifully presented dishes for dinner in the future. Go to class first. Happy, today I sent out the mandrill, although there are 68 rounds in the front. Ask for a wave of recommendation votes and favorites. Vote for recommendation. One shot of 10 consecutive mandrills will be full of life. Collect this book. 5 stars will come like water. End of this chapter. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22. Grindelwald taught Lu Ren everything. In the next few days, Grindelwald never mentioned the term artisan spirit again. He really didn't want to be ridiculed by a junior for more than 2,000 words. These days, the lives of the two are simple and regular. In the morning, Lu Ren provided Grindelwald with a breakfast, and then Grindelwald taught Lu Ren the knowledge of charms. Then it was lunchtime. Lu Ren would considerately present the teacher with different but delicious meals generally. It consists of a meat dish, a material, a staple food and a drink. Cooking is a very time-consuming and labor-intensive job, but with the help of magic, it saves a lot of effort. In fact, using magic to cook is a kind of happiness for chefs. You can cast magic on such tedious tasks as washing and cutting vegetables, and let the kitchen knife do it by itself. You are a mature kitchen knife, and you should learn to cut vegetables by yourself. The same goes for brushing the pan. The happiest thing in the world is not having to wash the dishes after eating. The most unfortunate thing in the world is to wash the dishes after cooking. Cooking and eating won't waste much time. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the two will start their classes again until 6 o'clock in the evening. During these 5 hours, Grindelwald would popularize the knowledge of potions and magical creatures to Lu Ren. Grindelwald assured Lu Ren that his knowledge of magical creatures was one of the best in this world. In the end, Lu Ren said, "Of course, after all, you have been beaten by many kinds of magical creatures." He choked and couldn't speak. The most angry thing was that this was still true for the first time. Grindelwald finds the prophecy Magus so annoying. At 6 o'clock in the evening, it was time for Lu Ren to make dinner. At 8 o'clock in the evening, when the food was almost digested, Grindelwald would give Lu Ren a practical teaching. At this time Lu Ren would have to pay the price for his cheap mouth. In order to avoid making a mess in the bedroom, the two of them will switch rooms for practical teaching. Grindelwald generously provided the locker room of Nurmengard Castle as a venue for actual combat. This dressing room is not as cramped as the ones in people's impression, with an area of more than, square meters. It is hard for Lu Ren to imagine Grindelwald's reason for building such a huge dressing room back then. However, during the period when Grindelwald gained power, the internal structure of German architecture was mainly broad and grand, which is understandable. Every time after the actual combat class, Lu Ren felt as if he had been beaten up by 8 big men with their heads covered. At this time, Lu Ren would briefly regret the smelly Grindelwald, but the next day he would continue to die without repentance, and the cycle repeated. It stands to reason that Grindelwald was the original Dark Lord, and Lu Ren should treat this big boss with reverence like a grandson. But it may be that he had lost too much in the early stage, and Lu Ren was completely unable to live with Grindelwald with the attitude of a superior and a subordinate. Of course, Lu Ren did get along with Grindelwald like a grandson. Which grandson is not naughty? The relationship between the two is between grandparents and friends. After the actual combat class, Grindelwald will provide ointments to treat injuries and quick recovery full of grandpa's love. These healing methods can relieve Lu Ren's physical pain, but it doesn't relieve mental fatigue. However, to Grindelwald's surprise, Lu Ren survived such a high-intensity teaching, which made Grindelwald treat Lu Ren even more differently. If Lu Ren knew that Grindelwald thought so, he would definitely be very disdainful. "That's it, your teaching intensity should be like that. I was a candidate in King's Hao back then. Which one of you in the 3rd year of high school didn't come out of Zuhei Zhuanshan?" Lu Ren not only passed the first line back then, but also surpassed the first line by a full, points. It relies on the word volume. I study for more than 10 hours a day, keep brushing the questions, and memorize routines. At that time, I survived without the recovery spell, let alone now. The fulfilling days pass day by day. Soon it will be July 31st. Lu Ren has been living in Nurmengard Castle for nearly 3 weeks. At 9 o'clock in the morning, Lu Ren pushed Grindelwald's bedroom away, ready to start a new day of study. "I don't have anything to teach you for the time being. No matter how advanced the knowledge is, you don't need to understand it yet, and you can't chew it. Today should be your last day in this castle. Tomorrow you should go back to Hogwarts." Lu Ren was taken aback. Is this going to end? Grindelwald continued talking before any reluctance arose in Lu Ren's heart. "What I want to teach you today is the most precious knowledge in the magic world. I told you before that the origin of Europa-type magic is the ancient runic script. It can be said that basically all local magic spells originated from the ancient runic script. Odin, the god of wisdom and knowledge recorded in Muggle mythology, hanging upside down on the world tree for 9 days and 9 nights, and finally creating the rune. It is basically made up. According to Grindelwald's previous teaching, the world's magic system is divided into 4 major systems: Europa, Asia, America, and Ophelia. Now the Asia department is declining due to the demise of the Central Plains magic world, and has basically cut off contact with the Western world. A state of independence. The origin of the magic world's runes is no longer proven. I collected a lot of information back then, and speculated that the origin of magic in this world may come from the legacy of extraterrestrial civilizations. There should have been 4 sacred objects on the Earth back then, distributed on 4 continents. These 4 sacred objects gave birth to the magic world and were the origin of human magic. The sacred object of the Europa system is a stone slab, which is divided into yin and yang part. There are 24 ancient Fisak letters recorded on the sun plate. This stone plate has been completely lost in history. Although the letters on it remain, they no longer have magic power. And I, Getler Grindelwald, have completely mastered the 29 Anglo-Saxon Fordok letters on the negative board. In the current magic world, I am the only wizard who has mastered this knowledge. When Grindelwald said this, he showed an extremely proud expression. Even with his city mansion, he couldn't hide the joy in his heart. I decided today to pass them on to you. There was light in Grindelwald's eyes at this time. Luren was also shocked by this. Grindelwald was willing to bestow such precious wealth on him. Don't refuse, remember to protect the wizarding world. Grindelwald waved impatiently. He didn't want to see mother-in-law. Okay. Luren didn't say anything more. It's useless to say more. The plot can be officially launched. Please recommend tickets and collections. The ancient runic script, also known as the rune alphabet, is divided into 3 kinds of ancient Fuisak script: Anglo-Saxon Fudok script and post-Fuisak script. Old Fisak is the oldest, but because of its ambiguity and the fact that its original Germanic name has too many signs, so I chose the Anglo-Saxon Fudok, which is easier to write in letters. Maybe no one has seen this, but I still want to say that I have deleted, rewritten, the previous plot, but the general plot direction has not changed, rewritten on February 21st, so if you're on the 5th book's read later will have no effect at all. It's good if not many people read the book, isn't it? End of this chapter. Chapter 23: Departure and Opening of the Curtain. Difficult, very difficult. Even after studying for a whole morning and an entire afternoon, Luren did not master even a single rune alphabet. This is very normal, because there is infinite magic behind every rune letter, and learning even one can benefit people a lot. It is extremely normal for Luren not to learn a single thing in one day. But it can't be said that there is no progress. After trying, runes one by one, the sigil representing the sun can respond a little bit, but at best it is at the level of lighting skills. It is a good startup. Grindelwald gave Luren a small bottle of his memories of practicing runes, which would be his teaching materials in the future. Luren can slowly comprehend this profound knowledge. Early the next morning, Luren, who was almost up all night, came to Grindelwald's bedroom early, and before he could knock on the door, Grindelwald opened the door. Albus will be coming in a while. You should go back to Hogwarts. You take this necklace. Grindelwald took out a necklace, the chain body of which is silver, and a hanging pendant underneath. Pendant, the pattern of the pendant is also very representative, Deathly Hallows. This symbol is also the emblem of Grindelwald: a vertical line, a circle, and a triangle. The combination of the 3 patterns is the symbol of the feared saints back then. Grindelwald personally put the necklace on Luren's neck, and then tucked the pendant into Luren's t-shirt. Try not to let other people see. Although the wizarding world may have forgotten me, it is better to have more things than less things. Make more friends at Hogwarts, and don't be complacent just because you have learned some knowledge. You can't teach me at school. Don't get fired until you have new knowledge. Okay, I'll come back to see you when Christmas and summer vacation come. No, I have my own business to attend to. You'll know when the time comes. Contact me through the necklace. That necklace, as long as you turn the vertical line representing the Elder One 3 times, I'll get a message. Okay. Luren didn't expect that there was a mystery hidden in the necklace. Also, you will be my grandson in the future. No. You have a good idea. We have our own opinions. Grindelwald and Luren laughed at the same time. At this time, a loud and clear phoenix cry came from outside the window. Albus is here, you go. Okay, take care. You too. Luren bid farewell to Grindelwald and returned to Hogwarts with Dumbledore. Luren will continue to work there until September, Saint at that time. Luren will go to platform 9 3/4, and take the train to Hogwarts. As for why it is necessary to do so, it is naturally for the purpose of socializing. The new semester does not start at Hogwarts. The new beginning begins the moment everyone boards the train. After Dumbledore left, Grindelwald smiled. He walked down the stone steps slowly and came to the foyer of the castle. Then he pushed the door open and walked out like a leisurely stroll. Hundreds of defensive spells set up by the Austrian Ministry of Magic seemed to be non-existent. The owner of the castle, who is also the only prisoner here, just walked out like this, as if he was just here to visit relatives and friends. Germany, Bavaria, Nuremberg. Even though the sun was about to set, there were still bustling crowds in the streets. It's just that no one has noticed that there is a black translucent gauze hovering down from the top of every building in the city. The tulle fluttered with the wind, and soon the whole city seemed to be enveloped by this weird creature, but no one is affected in the streets and alleys. Tourists are still taking pictures, children are running and playing, hawkers are working hard to sell their goods. Business as usual. There was a pile of dark and foul-smelling things on the corner of the street. If you looked closer, you would find that it was actually an old man huddled up. The locals call him Crazy Budgie or Drunk Arter. He is a crazy old man who gets drunk every day, has no relatives, and is homeless. When the black veil floated past him, the mass trembled, and then howled like a beast. McDowell, the owner of the tavern on the street, heard the infiltrating voice, stuck his head out of the window, and shouted, "Arter the drunk, what are you crazy about? Stuff has disappeared." Scenes like this happen in every corner of the city. There are successful people in suits and leather shoes, gray-haired old people, a family of 3 taking a walk, small vendors, and all kinds of unremarkable people. The only thing they have in common is the frenzy in their eyes when they see the translucent tool. Diddy, diddy, diddy. The entire Ministry of Magic has become a mess. Level, alert, level, alert, level, alert. Emotionless female voices echoed through the hall, throwing the German Ministry of Magic into utter chaos. Boom! A thunderclap exploded over the heads of the chaotic crowd. A tall and thin wizard, wearing a black wizard robe, put away the wand with a trace of electric current running through the tip. Silence. Unrelated personnel returned to their workstations. The Aurors will go to Nuremberg with me. The tall and thin wizard's name is Theodore Wells, who is currently the director of the Auror office of the German Ministry of Magic. Soon, he set off in a hurry with a dozen wizards. Although Theodore Wells was very calm, there was still a trace of fear deep in his heart. The logo that disappeared for nearly 50 years has reappeared. That person should be imprisoned in Nuremberg Castle in Austria. How could he suddenly appear in Germany? What is the Austrian Ministry of Magic doing? What is Dumbledore doing? Theodore Wells has received professional training. He quickly dispelled the fear, and filled his heart with anger. Since you dare to come out from there and go wild in Germany, then I will kill you on the spot. On the outskirts of Nuremberg, with a bang in the air, a group of wizards suddenly appeared on the asphalt road one after another. There are 14 in total, which is the total number of Aurors in the German Ministry of Magic. The villains must be executed. I allow you to use the unforgivable curse. He stared at the Voldemort covering the city for a while and then ordered to his subordinates. What is that? A young Auror couldn't help asking. Voldemort. Every time this creature kills and digests a victim, it will grow bigger. Theodore Wells glanced at the Voldemort in the air with complicated eyes. There is only one Voldemort of this size in the world. It belongs to Gittler Grindelwald. He is gathering his followers. Ask for recommended tickets and collections. End of this chapter. Chapter 24, Birth of the Demon King. Grindelwald waited quietly on the roof of der Business Tower, the tallest building in Nuremberg. He believed that even if the years passed, his subordinates would come quickly after seeing his sign. Nuremberg is the base where Grindelwald started after he disappeared that year. If his most loyal followers, that is, the Saints, wanted to live in seclusion in any city, it must be Nuremberg. Time can kill many things, but faith cannot be shaken. In other words, those with unsteady beliefs have been washed away by time. Grindelwald knew very well that not only his followers, but also Aurors from the Ministry of Magic would come here next. Without the support of believers, he would be besieged to death without a magic wand. But if he is still isolated and helpless in the base camp of his followers, then it is indeed better to die. However, this situation is impossible. After Voldemort was resurrected, he could attract more than a dozen Death Eaters with a single call. If you say that Grindelwald has no one to follow, it is simply a big joke. You know, Voldemort has no program, and he controls his subordinates with fear. Even if he can have such a huge momentum, the Saints of Grindelwald are fighting for the magic world, and they will only become more united. One after another, people appeared from the air. 1 person, 2 people, 10 people, dozens of people, hundreds of people. Soon, the roof of der Business Tower was full of people of all kinds. Most of them have gray hair, But there are quite a few middle-aged people, and even a few young people. Even though Grindelwald has disappeared for nearly 50 years, his thoughts have been circulating secretly in the magical world. The descendants of the saints are also saints. Even though hundreds of people had appeared on the rooftop, everyone was still in a deathly silence, and no one spoke. They're all waiting. They've waited 46 years, and they don't mind waiting a little longer. 46 years, what a long time. I'm back. Grindelwald only said this sentence. The crowd gradually became agitated, and most of the wizards' faces were covered with tears following these words. A word gradually sounded among them: Grindelwald, Grindelwald, Grindelwald. No one came forward to blame, and no one asked Grindelwald to explain the 40-plus years of waiting. After Grindelwald showed up and called up, they came, and that was enough. As long as you appear again, we will continue to follow until the last day in the world. A well-dressed witch squeezed out from the crowd. Judging from her eyebrows and eyes, this, year-old grandmother must have been a glamorous beauty when she was young. She walked up to Grindelwald, knelt down on one knee, and raised a wand above her head. Grindelwald reached out and took it, not his original one. That one had long since been destroyed by order of the Wizengamot. Inches, aspen wood, the core is the tail feathers of a thunderbird. The witch lowered her head and said respectfully, "You're bothering, Roger." Grindelwald stroked the wand, causing a little thunder to burst out from the tip of the wand. Aspen wood, with its ivory-like appearance and excellent spellcasting abilities, is especially suitable for the use of war magic, so people who own aspen wands are usually skilled or destined duelists. The thunderbird's tail feathers make the wand difficult to hold, but are very powerful. 9 symbolizes virtue and is the perfect form of the perfect number 3. 9 in the tarot card represents the hermit, which means the crystallization of wisdom, absolute discipline and strict mentor. 4, corresponding to the emperor in the tarot card. So this wand contains Roger's ardent hope. The reclusive emperor wages a just war with unmatched power. Chi-Chi suddenly sounded, and more than a dozen wizards suddenly appeared on the high platform. It was the aurors of the German Ministry of Magic who found Grindelwald along the Voldemort. To their surprise, there were too many people here. Seeing that the situation was not good, Theodore Wells yelled retreat, and then waved at Grindelwald, which was an Avada Kedavra. Hope it works. Theodore Wells prayed inwardly. Grindelwald picked up his wand, waved it casually, and a thunderbolt exploded in the ears of the aurors. With just one blow, Wells' killing curse was annihilated, and at the same time, several aurors were interrupted. Shape change shadow. All the aurors present showed pained faces, and some even had blood flowing from their ears. Just a magic spell made the aurors present lose their ability to resist. This mighty force, he really is. Theodore Wells didn't need to prove it. He knew that the wizard opposite must be the legendary Grindelwald. Only Grindelwald can defeat more than 10 aurors with one blow. Most of his subordinates have lost their ability to resist, and his mind is also buzzing. But Theodore Wells raised his wand anyway, and his lips squirmed to say a spell, but failed. He saw Grindelwald shook his head helplessly, and then a green light appeared from the tip of his staff. The Auror chief of staff was then plunged into eternal darkness. Reunion after a long time. Today is not a suitable day for killing. Grindelwald shook his head, but his temper was not good enough to tolerate an adult casting a killing curse on him twice. Forget everything. Grindelwald cast the forgetting curse on the remaining aurors who had lost their ability to resist. A white light flickered, and the eyes of the wizards became dazed. Let's go. Grindelwald ordered to the saints, the great age has come. On August 1991, Grindelwald escaped from prison. The believers were reconvened in Nuremberg. The German Ministry of Magic fought hard, the Auror office was wiped out, and the director of the Auror office, Theodore Wells, died. The world was shocked. The Ministry of Magic of more than a dozen countries, including the British Ministry of Magic, the French Ministry of Magic, and the Austrian Ministry of Magic, quickly dispatched elite aurors to Nuremberg for support. By the time they arrived, the saints had already moved, leaving only the aurors of the German Ministry of Magic unconscious. The Wizengamot quickly convened a meeting, and the British Minister of Magic, Cornelius Fudge, said that this was a violation of the bottom line and must be severely punished. In the end, the General Assembly decided to capture Gittler Grindelwald worldwide and offered him a reward of 100 million galleons. The name Grindelwald reappeared in the eyes of the wizarding public after 46 years. However, since the saints were summoned on August 8, Grindelwald and his followers have not heard from them. Seeing this news, Luren couldn't close his mouth in shock. So you will know what you mean by then. Now the entire wizarding world knows that Grindelwald cannot be found in Nurmengard. Presents recommended tickets and collections for the birth of the king. End of this chapter. Chapter 25. With such insects, how to govern the country well. Grindelwald is preparing for big news. This big news was Luren's idea. Yes, it is naturally feasible to take advantage of Mao Shuang's collapse to get an economic bonus, but Luren himself is not good at fighting in the economic field, and he is very likely to be eaten by those financial giants. Luren's biggest advantage is that he knows that the Soviet Union will disintegrate, but this advantage is rapidly weakening with the passage of time. Making money through exchange rates is the most conservative method, but it is difficult to change the status quo of the magic world just by having money. Luren wanted more. He actually had more radical ideas, but at the time he thought he was going to negotiate with Dumbledore, so he didn't dare to say it. Was the disintegration of the Soviet Union really inevitable? No. On March 1991, the Soviet government held a referendum in the territory to determine the future of the country. In addition to Georgia, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Moldova, and Armenia, 6 republics boycotted the referendum. Nearly 17 million Soviet citizens from the other 9 republics participated in the vote. The voting results showed that 1.5% of Soviet citizens wanted the country to maintain the status quo. 78% of the people want the Soviet Union to continue to exist. The withdrawal of some franchise countries is already a certainty, and it is beneficial to push these franchise countries out, cutting off the rotten meat and leaving the part that can be salvaged. A franchise country that is pushed out can also attract the energy of the oligarchs. Luren's purpose is to prevent the oligarchs from chewing and chewing, but also to muddy the water. This is not a technical job, the method is very rough, but what can be done at worst? At worst, just follow the worst world line. Everything must be pursued with a purpose. Before doing something, ask yourself, what do you really want? Luren's goal is simple, an aircraft carrier. I just want an aircraft carrier. You can add some technicians and frustrated researchers in this way. His 3 plans for the future have a basis for realization. Turning against a non-magic world is not considered for the time being. If it is true, it would be great to take out a few aircraft carriers. For the plan of wandering in space, you must first have a boat. You can't build it yourself, but now, you have a boat. People from the wizarding world boarded several transformed ships, and then wandered in the starry sky. It feels very good and can be used as an alternative. The third is to join the non-magic world, so it is better for me to negotiate with several aircraft carriers than to negotiate with nothing. Even if these plans cannot be realized, is there any loss in the wizarding world holding a few aircraft carriers? It's a big deal to resell it to the rabbit in the future. There are many aircraft carriers that can be considered, such as Ulyanovsk, Baku, Novorossiysk, Minsk, Kiev, Moscow, Leningrad. It would be great to have all these carriers. Luren often fantasizes so flatteringly. At the same time, in a secret villa in Crimea, Mikhail's personal bodyguard, Dietrich Ivanovich, was concentrating on reading the newspaper, while Mikhail, theoretically the most powerful man on the planet, was watching a movie with relish. He loved movies, and on several occasions he joked with Dietrich Ivanovich that he would have to make some cameos when he wasn't president. Dietrich Ivanovich always laughed it off. He actually hated this guy, but the Soviet Ministry of Magic and Internal Affairs sent him to protect this guy, and he could only obey. At this time, the air twisted, and a person appeared in the room, but he cast the disillusionment spell, and the Muggles could not find him. Dietrich Ivanovich noticed something, but before he could react, he heard a soul out of his body. He felt his mind went blank, and then felt extremely happy, and he gave up thinking. "What did you say?" Mikhail seemed to have heard something, and he turned to ask his bodyguard. "Nothing, Mr. President. I'm reading the newspaper. Sorry to bother you," replied Dietrich Ivanovich with a hint of apology. "It's okay." Mikhail didn't take this matter to heart. He continued to watch his movie. He wanted to finish the movie quickly, and in the evening, he had a secret date with Nicholas. That day, at 41 p.m., the most powerful two were already sitting together drinking wine. Sumptuous dishes were placed on the table. Mikhail's bodyguard Dietrich Ivanovich and Nikolai's secretary Nashat Konstantinovich for company. Nicholas is an extremely cautious person. He can appear here, so he naturally put forward many requirements, such as only one bodyguard is allowed on both sides, Mikhail's bodyguard is not allowed to carry a gun, and a series of conditions. gladly accepted. This made Nicholas relax his vigilance. It seemed that that naive fool really wanted to have a frank chat with him. That being the case, he also agreed to participate in this secret dinner. In his opinion, there is almost no risk in this dinner, but it can benefit him 10,000 times if the negotiation is completed. My secretary, Nashat Konstantinovich, is trustworthy, and I owe him a favor. He has been with me for nearly 20 years, and I have been prosperous and damaged. His family is also under my control. It can be said to be foolproof. The atmosphere of the dinner was very good, the two got along happily, and the negotiation and exchange of interests were going on smoothly. Nicholas was very happy. He drank one cup after another of vodka, and gave the green light to Mikhail's retirement treatment all the way. Whatever you say, you agree to it first, and when you can't fulfill it, what else can this guy do to him? At this time, there was a voice in Nashat Konstantinovich's mind: kill these two people, kill these two. He couldn't help touching his waist. There was a Makarov pistol there, and it was the only gun in the room. His hand stopped when it touched the butt of the gun, and a voice in the back of his head yelled, "Stop, do not do that." Two voices collided in his mind, and he fell into a state of sluggishness for a moment. Don't be so dazed, come, have a drink. At this moment, Dietrich Ivanovich touched Nashat Konstantinovich's elbow, and poured half a glass of wine for him. Glass of whiskey. Nashat bowed slightly to express his thanks, then took the glass and drank it down. The second voice in my head suddenly became quieter. Nashat glanced at Nikolai with his dull eyes. Nicholas was half drunk at this time. He picked up a pickle, ate it in one bite, and praised, "That's the way it is." At this moment, Nashat drank another glass of wine, and only one voice remained in his mind: kill them. So he thumped the table hard according to the voice in his mind, and said loudly, "Your Excellency, who else will save you if you don't support it?" Then he turned his head to look at Nicholas and said, "With such insects, how can you save me? Can govern the country well." Then, he suddenly pulled out his Makarov pistol from his waist, and shouted, "You traitor! Don't say anything. If you want to say anything, tell Comrade Cheka." Then he pulled the trigger. Boom, the bullet passed through Nikolai's body. "You want to rebel?" Mikhail said in horror. Nashat Konstantinovich looked at him expressionlessly, and then pulled the trigger in his hand. Boom. Readers, with such an author, you will definitely be able to follow the book well. Ask for recommended tickets and collections. End of this chapter. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.